Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Happy Friday. Hope you guys are doing well. We're going to be doing live readings on the channel this evening. We are going to be doing live astrology readings just in time for the new moon in Pisces. If you're just tuning in, do me a favor, make sure you click the thumbs up below. Give me a thumbs up. You can leave me a comment. You can join us also in the chat and interact with us for a little bit, and we'll talk about what's going on with our astrology charts. Give everybody a little bit of time to get in here. So if you're new to this, there is a QR code right down here and you can scan that. It's going to take you directly to my PayPal where you can make a donation. So all readings are going to be $40 for one question, either about transits or about something that's going on with your natal chart. Natally, if you have questions about that. Equally, we're going to do Synastry. So if you have questions about Synastry, we can do that for $65 donation, but you're welcome to donate and be more generous if you guys want to. Man, we got a lot of people in the queue already. There's like 12 people waiting. So we may not take too many people this evening. I recommend if you know that you want to get a reading, get in the queue now, because as it is, you probably won't get a reading for like an hour or two. So just a heads up. And we'll see who's kind of popping in. My formatting is super weird on here. What's going on? Did they change the YouTube already? It's like really weird. Usually my chat comes to the side, but it's not doing that. I feel like an old lady even reading this. I did see the number of people that we got already, so big thank you. Let's say hi to everybody in the chat. What's up, Spacebug? Hopefully you're enjoying your concert. Hey, Emma, Diana, thank you guys for being subscribers and members. What's up, Prince? Hey, Rachel. Hey, Vanessa. Adriana, what's up going on? Good evening. Hey, Kiki. This time I knew what to do. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a rundown. So we're going to be taking readings in the order that we receive them. So there is a number of people, obviously. So I'll give you guys the rundown of who I've got already. So that way when you guys go, did you call me? I'll say, yes, I have you. Just come back to this in just a little bit. I'm getting a reading soon. Finally making it live. What's up, Wolf Fairy? All right. Here's who I have already. And just as a reminder, if you're new to getting a reading, once you scan the QR code down here, you're going to be prompted to make the donation for $40 or $65, whichever depending on what kind of reading you're getting. Make sure that in the memo, you put this information. I need to know your first name. I need to know the exact date and year, the city, and also the time, so AM or PM, please. I'm here in the United States, so if you want to spell the state out, that would be really helpful. And let me know if your name differs from PayPal versus YouTube. It's so much easier when we get into like a flow of things going so much more smoothly if you put all of this information. Otherwise, I have to stop, ask questions. It takes so much longer to get the reading finished. So please make sure you put that information. I really appreciate it. Thankfully, I don't have to scold anybody this evening. It looks like everybody got it for the most part. And Synastry is when we look at the astrology of two people together. So ideally we have the time, the date, and the location for both people. If you're like, how do I find that information on myself? You can go look at your birth certificate. It should have a time. And a lot of you guys who are watching my stuff have already looked at your astrology before. So you're no stranger to that. Okay, so here's who we have. All right, so we're going to be taking Emma and Diana because you guys are level 3. But we've got Serena, Crystal, aka Miss V. We've got Marlene or Mary Lynn. I'm not sure which one that is. I think it's Mary Lynn. Jennifer, Tonga, Susan, Elle, Chelsea, and Christine. So we've got all of you guys already in the queue. I'll probably leave this open for like maybe 15, 20-ish minutes if you guys want to get a reading. Please be specific. Don't just go, oh, whatever you see, because I can go on and on forever. I would rather kind of hone in on what it is that you want me to take a look at. We do have this new moon in Pisces that's coming up here pretty soon on the 20th. So I will kind of revert to those readings talking about how the new moon is going to affect you. And let's go ahead and jump into it. So I saw Emma's question. So for the level 3 subscriptions, we'll take a look at anything in regards to your chart. Unfortunately, not Synastry, but if that's something you want to come back and do, I'm happy to do that. And I have your information here, March 18th, 1976 at 11:50 p.m. And that was in Australia. So I've got you here as a Capricorn rising, your sun is in Pisces, and your moon is in Scorpio. I know that you're asking questions about relationships, so I'll try to see if I can maybe tie that in a little bit for you. So, you know, basically relationships are going to deal a lot with your moon, okay? And there are some transits that are going to be going on to your moon here pretty soon. You're going to see that the moon is going to get hit with a south node transit. You're also going to see Pluto over the next couple of years coming into some squares with your moon. So it's definitely going to change relationship dynamics quite a bit. So you really want to be watching those lunar transits. Equally, you've got Saturn coming into Pisces pretty soon. So once Saturn comes into Pisces and it starts coming into conjunction with your natal Venus, it's not unusual to be experiencing karmic relationships and talking more about commitment or resources or finances, the list goes on. What's interesting is in spite of Saturn coming into conjunction with Venus, which I think a lot of people kind of get a little weird about that transit, they get worried about relationships. Transiting Saturn off and on all 2023, it's going to trine your natal moon in Scorpio. So I really love this transit for you. I feel like this is about taking responsibility and having conversations and communicating with potential love partners in terms of what your goals are in regards to relationships. And a lot of this is because Saturn's going to be in a house that's about communication. It's going to be trining your moon in Scorpio in the 11th house. So it's wanting to smooth any fears you may have in regards to relationship challenges or instability in relationships, because you also have the moon conjunct Uranus. And defining maybe what a relationship is versus just a friendship further. And then if you look at the right-hand side of the chart, you have Mars in Cancer. So you're going to have Saturn that's also going to be trining your Mars, which whole sign-wise belongs to your 7th. So I really love this for you. I feel like this whole next year with Saturn creating this water trine in your chart is learning how to actually communicate goals and express what you're hoping to achieve in regards to relationships. You know, Mars is the ruler of a Capricorn 4th house, so it's about home and family. So you might have conversations talking about movement, moving in, talking about the future of your home and your living situation. And you're also going to be seeing that the trine is going to really amplify your natal 5th house, which is about true love and romance. So the truth is that there's lots of positive stuff that's kind of brewing in regards to things that can be going on with your relationships. Obviously, like, you know, in a session, I like to look at the progress chart. I also like to look at, you know, the annual perfection, the solar return. There's a lot of different things that you want to look at when you're making relationship predictions, one of which might even be the progressed moon, since the moon rules your 7th. This is just one piece of the puzzle, but I think that the Saturn transit is going to be kind of showing up for you all year, you know, just kind of building off of the energy of what we have coming with this new moon in Pisces. If you guys haven't seen that video, I put it out already, check it out. This is a really significant new moon to set intentions and to really focus on making your dreams a reality, because Pisces can be very much about fantasy. Saturn wants to ground that out. And with somebody who's got Venus in Pisces, Moon in Scorpio, Mars in Cancer, amazing to set intentions about just having clearer communication. And Saturn will actually go back and forth over that 1 degree of Pisces several times throughout this year. So we're going to see Saturn go from 0 to 7 of Pisces, and it'll retrograde. So it'll hit it a couple times. So I would really use the new moon to like set intentions, write them out, like write a list of what you're hoping to achieve in terms of your goals with relationships, and also making more time. Saturn is about time. Saturn's your chart ruler because you're a Cap rising. So the fact that it's coming into your 3rd house and conjuncting Venus, you might feel like, well, now it's time for me to be in a much more public relationship. Now it's time for me to talk more seriously about commitment and what I'm hoping to achieve in relationships. So there might be a sense of focusing more on communicating from the heart. And I also feel like because Libra is connected to like a Capricorn midheaven, there is this sense of being like, I want to identify as being in a committed relationship out in the world. So I think that that's really wonderful as well. So you're born with this water trine natally. I feel like the new moon in Pisces is just going to enhance that. And obviously the moon is the ruler of your 7th house. So seeing a new moon where the sun and the moon are coming together, it's highlighting your natal 7th and 8th house, which is like, how can we merge and come together? Now, it's not unusual for Venus in Pisces to be a little unsure about relationships, very devoted, really self-sacrificial at times, but a little unsure because there is this sense of it being a mutable sign and it's changeable. So you might feel like, okay, well, I need to put it out there and talk to them and see how they're feeling and see if I get kind of like, you know, some positive feedback from them, or I see them taking action and trying to like, you know, pursue me. Mars belonging to your 7th house. Because you have, you know, Cancer on the descendant, also because the moon is what rules the sign, there can be lots of fluctuation and almost like moodiness that can go on with relationships. And I also think that with your 7th house Lord conjunct Uranus, as the South Node is swinging through Scorpio right now, it's going to be now through when it really conjuncts your South Node. Looks like that's going to be closer to like June and July. I mean, it's eventually going to go into, the South Node is going to go into Libra in July. But between now and July, the South Node is going to swing through there. So on one hand, it can be a situation where, you know, friends from the past come back, particularly women. Watch for that, who you were friends with in the past. But it can also bring relationships back from the past because the South Node is going to conjunct the moon. So it's reminding you of the past friendships, relationships, romantic relationships. Scorpio is more sexual in nature, so I'm also like being mindful that, you know, the 11th house can mean that suddenly, you know, you're connecting with somebody who you had an intimate relationship with on a social media platform. They kind of come back from the past out of the blue. They're asking you, well, can we be friends? You know, what can we do? So just watch for that. But also as the South Node is moving through Scorpio, it's trining your Mars, trining your Venus. So it's teaching you, if certain people from the past come back that you're like not interested in or you don't want to commit to go, no, thank you, that door has shut, right? Because it's going to trine Saturn. Equally, it's teaching you to be more Scorpio-like and kind of to the point when it comes to relationships and have those conversations that are just going to kind of cut to the core of the potential so you don't feel like you're wasting time. Because I'd be lying to you if I said it wasn't possible at some point with the South Node on your 7th house ruler that you may, you know, disconnect from somebody if it's not a fit or if you guys aren't on the same page about what you're looking for. As Saturn is coming into conjunction with Venus, I think for a Saturn-based chart, it's actually quite positive because it tells me that you're going to have more mental strength or more communication abilities to get the point across and be very clear in regards to what it is you need to feel loved and to feel secure, right? So something like that is going to play out. And down the road, as we start to see, you know, other transits to your moon, obviously the next couple of years, Pluto will square. So I would use the Saturn transit preemptively as a way to be very clear about what your boundaries are in relationships and getting all that out before Pluto starts coming into the square with your moon. Now, to be honest with you, that opening square might suggest that you're involved in a relationship with somebody where somebody's got to move, you know, you got to move to another state, you got to move to another country. Maybe there's also a need to kind of really clear out any subconscious fears, right? Because Pluto rules your 12th house in regards to relationships in general, but also joint resources in relationships. And so you want to have lots of conversations now with Saturn conjunct Venus, like, what is your goal? What are you hoping to achieve? You know, where are you investing your money? Like, you know, really asking all of those questions. What are your professional goals? Especially because Venus has connections for Capricorn rising to career. So have all those conversations. Your Venus is at a 4. So this is also going to be talking a lot about home life and what you're hoping to achieve in regards to your private life. Okay. just food for thought. You know, there's going to be some colorful stuff later this year, right? You're going to see Jupiter start opposing your moon in May. You're also going to see an eclipse that's going to be in Taurus. I think that's going to be at the end of October. That is going to be in opposition to your moon. So there's definitely like a lot more going on in the fall. You're also getting ready to have your Jupiter return in the 5th house. And the North Node's coming into conjunction with your Jupiter. So in the 5th house, it's about true love, right? And getting to a point where you can maybe connect with somebody who could be a foreigner, they could be abroad, or somebody who's younger, or somebody that you're hoping to have like a real strong romantic connection with. So between the North Node on your Jupiter and your Jupiter return, eclipses that are still taking place in your 5th house, I think that love is very much on the table. And I would just say be ready for it. Think back to what was going on in 1993 and 1994. That was the last time Saturn was moving through Pisces in this part of your chart. Obviously, you know, you were like a teenager, but it might have been like your first real kind of brush with like love and romance. And definitely lots of karmic relationship stuff comes up then. So I'd go back and look at those transits. Excellent, excellent new moon for you though. I'm really excited to see that happen so close to your Venus. Hopefully that's helpful. What's up, Christine? Do I have you on here? Christine with a K. If you guys make a donation, just let me know. I'll check the PayPal and I'll update that. We are doing readings by donation only. So if you guys want to make a donation for a reading, I am happy to read for you. Let's see. We got Christine Wall, Mistro City, Joseph, Rachel, and Brandon. Thank you guys. Let's pull up Deanna. I know she was the next on my list. And she was asking questions about what is going on. She's ready to settle down with this Irish man that we kind of talked about maybe coming in her future months back, somebody she would connect with at a distance. Deanna says, hey, cashing in. I have so many transits going on. It's been an emotional roller coaster. I think I'm ready to settle down with the Irishman long term. Any advice? I got you. Well, this is so cool. Like this is like the fruitful period for a Leo rising chart now that you're kind of through the thick of the Saturn-Uranus squares. Let me throw your transits on here. Sorry, my bad. There we go. Okay, so relationships in general, you know, that's your 7th house. Okay, so Aquarius 7th house, just recently you had the Sun and Saturn come into conjunction in the 7th. You're the Sun, other people are Saturn or Uranus. So likely there's been this theme in the air over the last week or so that's about commitment, maybe marriage, settling down, but in an unconventional, sudden, unexpected way. So actually this is wonderful. What's interesting is that you're coming into the finale of your Uranus opposition. So I think I remember telling you some time back, like where Uranus in the 4th house of your chart or conjunct your IC has been a lot of moves and instability and like not knowing how to kind of settle. That a lot of your Uranus opposition would be like new relationship, new identity, maybe even working in a new place. So all of these things are kind of coming together. I think the Sun Saturn is also kind of suggesting that there are decisions that need to be made in a timely fashion, both for career reasons, scheduling reasons, right? Because Saturn also is connected to your 6th house. Over the next few years, you are still going to see Uranus square your ascendant and your descendant. So even though you're moving out of your Uranus opposition, which totally turns everything on its head, it's squaring your ascendant and your descendant, which can make it more challenging, like in 2 years' time, to navigate commitments with relationships. Now, we would need to see some positive aspects to your natal Saturn or maybe to your natal Uranus to really suggest that marriage is on the table. Well, I see a couple colorful transits. For starters, Uranus in opposition to Uranus says somebody's got to move. You already know this. We also see transit Saturn coming into an opposition with your natal Saturn is going to represent the divide that could be between the two of you guys if you don't do this in a timely manner, or the fact that it might take all of this year while Saturn is in Pisces to figure out how to like come together and be able to stay together more consistently. You've got Jupiter that's going to go into Taurus in May, and that'll immediately start trining your Saturn. It'll also start coming into an opposition with your natal Uranus. So yeah, I do think that commitment is on the table. I would say that Saturn opposed Saturn for a Leo rising chart, even though your natal Saturn is in the first, is going to bring up themes revolving around who is working and providing, like who's making the money, because you're going to have Saturn that's going to be going into your whole sign 8th. So it might feel like limitation of a partner's resources and where it's making oppositions to your natal Saturn. And you may feel like there's points where, you know, you're supporting him until things kind of get kosher and like he can, you know, live in the United States and work in the United States, or vice versa. It could go either way. But it's good to make a decision before the Saturn opposition, in my opinion. And talk all of that stuff out thoroughly. The other thing that I'm looking at is like, you know, the North Node is going to be moving into Aries, even though it's not going to be in your Placidus 8th house more so until next year. I feel like it's a situation where he says, hey, help me out, hold me down. Like, you know, obviously I want to work, but there's going to be some things that are going to kind of limit me. And maybe, you know, you're pulling more of the weight until he can be working like legally in the States. But by the time that the North Node is in your Placidus 8th house, I could see him being like, I'm working, I'm contributing. And like, there's other things he can bring to the table with Jupiter in your 8th house now, right? There's security, there's more intimacy, there's a whole bunch of stuff that, you know, money can't necessarily buy. But by the time that the North Node is moving into your 8th house and it's your reverse nodal return, so you're looking at closer to like summer of 2024, like July of 2024. This is more looking like a time where, yeah, you're going to get more support definitely from a partnership. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, you know? Sorry, there seems to be like a delay on my chat, so it's not that I'm not reading what you guys are saying, but it's just taking a little bit longer for me to get it. There we go. What's up, Jenna? Hey, Rachel. Don't worry, if you miss it, we'll make sure it's here. You can come back to it. Let's see what you're saying. You said, man, I really hate what they're doing with this chat box. I'm not liking this at all. It's making it so much more difficult for me to see this. Let me see. There we go. Which is cool. Yeah, he brings a ton to the table. Okay, so you get what I'm saying, right? It's just going to take a little bit longer, you know, basically for some of this stuff to kind of pay off. Timing-wise, I would also say, like, I would like to see some positive aspects to your natal Saturn or Uranus before getting married. You know, timing, you know, there's going to be a Venus retrograde that's going to take place later this summer. That's going to square all your stuff. So it makes me wonder if it's like a situation where you have to go there and get married and then, you know, come back and then wait for him to come and meet you. With Venus retrograde in your 12th, it could literally be like a ceremony that you're doing abroad, and Jupiter will be in your 9th. So I'm wondering if that's going to be an engagement or a ceremony or something that you do somewhere else and then you return. And then you're able to kind of reconnect more sometime at the end of summer. But yeah, this is the seeding, right? Now that Saturn's about to hit 29 degrees, now that all of these planets, even Venus and Pluto, they're all hitting 29 degrees. So there is this sense of like, okay, wanting to complete delays in your 6th house, wanting to complete delays of relationships in your 7th house, wanting to, you know, think about something more solid long-term in terms of union in your 8th house. So timing-wise, it makes sense. And if you are going to make that decision to elope and do all that stuff, that's fine. I would just say choose an election date that's not going to be during the Venus retrograde, because I think of like the end of August, there's going to be a Venus retrograde in Leo, and then there's going to be a Mercury retrograde that's going to be in Virgo. So you're going to have a retrograde on your ascendant and a retrograde over your Saturn, and Saturn rules your 7th house. So too long didn't listen. If you're going to do it, you want to do it like the first half of July. Ideally not in August or September, or you need to wait a little bit longer. Your choice. But obviously, you know, romance factor is really positive, you know, just generally overall for Capricorns, because you're going to see Jupiter 5th house to your sun. So to me, it seems like, yeah, it's good timing. You know, Jupiter trine your Venus. You're also going to see that this is helping you embrace a new identity with Jupiter and Uranus moving fully into your 10th house later this year. So yeah, it's like people are going to go, oh, that was quick. You know, or you took a new last name, or you're married to, you know, some foreign person. But yeah, I think the other side of this is, in the back of my mind, just have all the conversations, because by the time you get to July of next year, when you have your reverse nodal return, that north node's in your 8th house, which means like you're supposed to be receiving support from another person. So somebody's supposed to be helping you, whether that's, you know, emotionally, or, you know, you may even opt, believe it or not, to do some kind of like training or some continuing education of sorts. And so I wonder if there's going to be like a trade-off where he's going to say, hey, let's do this for a year. I'll get a job. I'll start working. Then you can kind of go and do what it is that you want to do to be able to kind of, you know, expand on what you're wanting to do career-wise. So he'll get you back. But yeah, timing-wise for the marriage stuff, to me, it makes sense that this is something that you're thinking about later in the summertime. And this is part of your Uranus opposition, you know? I mean, the 10th house is your career, but it represents where partners live. So the fact that you're having Jupiter and Uranus coming back into your 10th house makes me feel like it's very obvious he's going to have to be kind of coming back to visit you and staying here. And you're trying to probably figure out like the logistics of that during the Mercury retrograde in Taurus. And that's not going to be happening until about end of April going into May of 2023. So it's not too far off here. Sorry, this iPad is being possessed right now. There we go. So it's going to be closer to, yeah, April going into May. We'll have a Mercury retrograde in your 10th house, and it's going to be very close to your natal Uranus, which means you guys are trying to figure out how to get him over here. Have you guys started talking about that? Sounds about us. You're so spot on. His Pluto transit as well. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah. And also, you know, I remember he's got all that Gemini. So for Geminis, the Mars square Neptune is a lot of where am I going? Where am I living? What am I doing? And so like things are going to feel a lot more grounded for him closer to the summertime in terms of figuring that stuff out. Right? I'm excited. Let me know if you end up needing an election date. I don't think a lot of people realize like the day that you get married, like that's going to create a chart in itself. So making sure that you have a really good astrology for the day that you get married, I think is rather important. Sometimes I see a lot of people who already have a wedding plan and like the transits are trash. And I try to tell them like, okay, why don't you sign the papers or like legally get married on a different day and then, you know, have your ceremony and do your thing. So that can be another option. If you're like, I have to be there at a certain time, but it just doesn't line up. There's a way for you to be able to do the paperwork, obviously, beforehand. So that's another option if you really want to do that over the retrograde. But I'm never a fan of people getting married during a Venus retrograde, especially this one this summer with the squares to Uranus. That can be kind of sealing the fate for having some problems down the road, you know? Hopefully that's helpful. Thank you very much for being a supporter. Those of you guys who are just tuning in and you're wanting to get a reading, you can scan the QR code, you can get in the queue, you can make your donation, and then I'll be doing these readings for you. I will not get married during the retrograde. Thank you. I can't tell you how many people I've had to talk out of that in recent years, and 9 times out of 10 when they do it, they come back and they're like, what was I thinking? Or an eclipse, that's the other thing that I see. We're going to leave the queue open for like another 10 minutes. What's up, Cosmic Dancer? Hey, Bridget. She says, holy cow, I need some harmonious and update news. Okay. Just let me know once you guys make donations. I'll put you in the queue and we can get you in for a reading. Oh, I see you there. Thank you. Okay, so we've got Serena, Miss V, Mary Lynn, and Jennifer. You guys are all on deck. So please be ready. What's up, Jenna? I got you. Libra, my Libra rising buddy. Let's see who we got here. We got Serena. Let's pull Serena's chart up. Man, stuff is glitchy. What is going on? Is Mercury square the nodes right now? I know I sound like a weirdo saying that, but is it? Yeah, it's moving away. Oh, the Moon-Pluto conjunction. Ugh. The next couple hours is Moon-Pluto at 29. All right, so the energy is kind of weird. Chelsea, I don't have you yet. Don't worry, but I know that you're on my list. I've seen you. All right, so this is going to be for Serena. Let me pull her up. With the transits. Okay, there we go. So Serena is Scorpio rising, Sun in Aquarius, and your Moon is in Cancer. Thank you, Cosmic Dancer. Okay, so Serena, I feel for you because I remember talking to you here recently about what you had going on, you being a Scorpio rising with all that Aquarius, and then your partner is a Taurus rising, and you guys are going through the eclipses in your 1st and 7th house. Okay, so that does bring much more of a focus in your 7th house with the North Node transit on what your partner is doing, what they're building, having their independence. And with the South Node going through your sign, it's kind of releasing and feeling the need to kind of let go. So what transits are happening in his Taurus rising chart, bringing the attention back to his security and what he needs to do. And what I see in your 7th house, it is matching up, okay? So your question was, I'm an Aquarius Sun, Scorpio rising, Cancer moon. My husband is an Aquarius Sun, Taurus rising, Virgo moon. With all the planets hitting our signs, it's been very hard in our relationship. My husband is now traveling for work, keeping us away from each other, which puts even more strain on our relationship. With us getting hit so much with retrogrades in our signs, do you think our relationship will survive, and will we overcome this? So once again, one would want to look at composites and stuff like that. But for starters, you know, something, and you'll see this, I talk about this tomorrow on my weekly astrology weather. I talk about how Venus is about to go into Aries, and for those of you guys who are Venus-based charts, or for Scorpio risings in particular, Venus is going through the 6th house, which can create some disharmony in relationships. It is possible, okay? But it's quick moving. It's not going to be there forever. 2, I say this with so much love, but like, you could have been in the most amazing marriage with some of the transits that you've had over this last year, and it was going to be rocky, all right? It was very unlikely that you were going to go through and you weren't going to, you know, you were going to be unscathed. Why do I say that? Well, you've had Saturn going through your 4th house, which is about home, family, property, right? But Saturn, when it goes through the 4th house, makes you feel isolated. It makes you feel alone. So sometimes there can be situations where if there's too much togetherness in the home, it'll create squabbles, right? Especially because you've got Mercury, which is the mind and communication, and the Sun, which can be about a man, conjunct in the 4th house. At 19 degrees is literally about a partner. It's about a spouse. So Saturn's been going through there. There's been a difficult time communicating. Anybody who's got this many planets in the 4th house, they like to rule the roost. They like to be the boss of the house, right? Like, watch out with you being in the kitchen because you're going to be somebody who's chasing somebody with a spatula. It's going to work better not having your spouse in the house. So if he's got to be working, I think it's great. I'm sorry to hear that you guys are having problems. You know, Saturn is finally leaving your whole sign 4th house here. It's going to be here for 1 more year. But it doesn't necessarily make me feel like the relationship has to end. Now, actually, relationships have more to do with endings in the 6th house of Aries. So for Scorpio rising, Venus going through the 6th house here pretty soon, coming into conjunction with Jupiter, coming into conjunction also with Chiron, can bring some relationship issues and kind of like getting all of that out in the open. One thing that can be really helpful, I think, is like investing in an outlet, like being active, being fit, going out, going to a gym, working out, doing something, because Aries wants that outlet, right? And the 6th house is our daily routine. Mars is what rules this house, and I noticed that you have Mars in the 4th. So I feel like this is going to be about you reorganizing your schedule, you reorganizing the house, kind of keeping things up, getting everything kind of sorted out, as giving you like an outlet for some of that frustration with what's going on with your spouse. You've got eclipses still happening in your natal 7th house. You have got the North Node that is conjunct Chiron right now. So that's going to be bringing up issues revolving around your partner needing to heal self-esteem and self-worth issues. Soon, Jupiter will go into your 7th house. And I think that what you're going to find is that your spouse is a little bit more positive and upbeat and optimistic. You may also find that they're really proud of the fact that they've been working through issues and that they have been working really hard and making more money. Not that that's going to make things better, but you might find that they're just in better spirits. Personally, I'd be more concerned about transit Uranus square your natal Mars, but you've been in this for the last 2 years and it's been creating some friction and some drama. Now Uranus is coming out of that square. Over this next year, we're going to see Uranus square your Mercury, and then it's going to square your natal Sun. And that makes me feel like it's issues revolving around whether or not you're letting that person lead, whether or not you're giving them independence, whether or not there's some conflict in regards to him wanting to do his own thing. All the while, then we have Pluto coming in to also square the nodes. And it's also going to come into conjunction over the next few years with your IC. Here's the deal. I think when I look at your 7th house Lord Venus, the fact that Venus is in Capricorn in the 3rd, your partner is going to be more harmonious and pleasurable and communicative as long as you're allowing him to travel, as long as you're giving him a little bit of space. Obviously, a lot of it's going to depend on your guys' composite chart, right? So you would want to look at the composite chart. But looking at this, like, I do feel like there's ways to move through this. You're going to want to watch for when there are eclipses that are going to be taking place in Aries and Libra. That's definitely, like, if you're asking me, hey, when could there or when would there potentially be issues that would lead to separation, and this is a could, I'm not saying it will, is much more likely to come up probably around the eclipse here. You're gonna have an eclipse at 29 degrees, right conjunct your descendant. So solar eclipse is action oriented, right? It's technically in your 6th, so it's right behind your 7th house cusp, and it's gonna be ruled by Mars, and at the time you have Mars coming into conjunction with your moon. So it makes me feel like there can be a sense of like you getting a little bit agitated. Personally, I look at this and I'm like, you actually need to be the one traveling with this, or you need to be taking a course, or you need to be doing something more 9th house as an outlet for some of this energy. That's an eclipse that I would watch because it's definitely going to create some action in your relationships. The other time period that I would watch for is also going to be, you're going to have an eclipse in Scorpio, right here, right around May 5th. So it's going to be in your 1st house in opposition to planets in your 7th, and it's going to square your Mars, your chart ruler. So that would make me feel like if there's too much pressure, if there's too much conflict, yeah, things could kind of shift and somebody could be like, hey, I need some kind of space. But you've been seeing this for the last 2 years with Saturn in your 4th house and Uranus in your 7th squaring. Partners are like, I need another house, I need freedom. They're acting like all over the place. Things will get better in theory once Uranus is no longer squaring your Mercury and your Sun. You're going to deal with that for 1 more year. And that's going to be him being like, I've got career stuff going, I've got work stuff going, I can't be in the home, I need space. 2 is you're also going to have some eclipse energy that's going to be taking place in the fall here. And it's going to be in Libra. So it looks like we're going to have a, let's see, we're going to have an eclipse in Libra. And this is going to be more challenging because it's going to be conjunct your Pluto at a 19. So this is possibly kind of highlighting that you guys may be going in the direction of doing some couples counseling. That's how I see Pluto in the 12th house. This can also highlight the fact that like this person is saying to you like, hey, I need some space. Sorry guys, my iPad is like acting super glitchy. It's so weird. I've never seen it act like this before. Okay. There we go. Come on. Now it's gonna go backwards. Come on. Come on, you can do it. It's gonna be the eclipse that's gonna be in October. Sorry, this isn't really working for some reason. What's going on? There we go. This one. So it's gonna be right around October the 13th, 14th. Yeah, solar eclipse 21 degrees Libra. So this particular eclipse conjunct your Venus is also an indication that there could be some challenges. It's going to be conjunct Pluto, which is your chart ruler. It's about what's going on behind the scenes in terms of your fears with your relationship, and it's going to trine your sun. Once again, nothing is saying that things have to end, but this is going to go on for like another year. And I would be more concerned about like the North Node Chiron and maybe Mars transits through Libra, which will be in October or in the spring of next year. To really know for sure what's going to happen, I recommend getting, you know, like a reading where you can look at both charts together and look at the composite and the synastry. You also want to look at your progressed planets. Now, just off the cuff here, something else that you have that's kind of building is, like I said, you've got Pluto coming into Aquarius. Now, for all Scorpio risings, it doesn't matter if this is Placidus or whole sign, this is a profound change and a transformation of your inner world and your home life, right? And you personally are seeing that Pluto is coming into an opposition with Jupiter. So it can suggest that there's some challenges revolving around power dynamics and money and who's working versus who's spending versus who's saving. Considering that you have Taurus in the 7th house, I would talk to your partner about that. I wonder if some of the issues that are going on are actually stemming from the fact that he's financially stressed and feeling like he needs to work a lot, and that there can be some issues that he's not fully kind of communicating in regards to finances that needs to be worked through, right? And then next year, you'll see in the spring again, there's going to be some eclipses. So those are going to be like the hot times. But nothing here is making me feel like the relationship has to end. I can just see that you have like a very kind of antsy partner who's going to be like, I just need space, I need space, I need space, which makes sense. If he's a Taurus rising and he's got Jupiter and Uranus that's in his 1st house, you're going to see this more throughout this entire next year. And with good reason, because by the time we get to 2024, when Jupiter's going into his 2nd house, you're going to realize it's like he's been focusing on growth and stability and finances. But knowing that you have some of these eclipses in the 6th house, you're going to air out some dirty laundry. Knowing that you have some eclipses going on in the 12th house, I would say don't hold back. Maybe it is a good idea to consider bringing in a 3rd person and getting a counselor. You're going to have a Mercury retrograde in Taurus. That's going to be in April, May in your 7th house. And I think that's a wonderful time to sit down and kind of talk, because it's going to trine your Venus and it's going to trine your North Node and your Saturn. So I do think that it is possible for, you know, the two of you guys to find ways to kind of communicate and start sorting some of this stuff out. Yeah. Yeah, the last 2 years has been rough with this chart, but the truth is it would not matter like whether you were in a relationship or not. If you were married in a wonderful relationship and somebody was around all the time, you would feel the same way. If you are in a relationship or if you were not in a relationship, the Saturn square would bring people in that were going to be very unstable and they were going to need some space. The 4th house is about marriage karma. Not a lot of people know that. So if you have a lot of heavy hitters in your 4th house, there's definitely going to be, with a Saturn transit, lots of karma relating to marriage. But it's even when you get out of these transits next year, I'm really looking at the Jupiter-Pluto square, because clearly there's some fundamental issues in regards to how you guys look at values, and if he's feeling like he needs to work all the time and like you guys don't have that connection. Sitting down and being like, I know that you value security and stability, but, you know, like I'm not feeling like I'm getting what I need. Yeah, the last 2 years were definitely going to be a roller coaster. It'll be interesting to see what happens when Saturn leaves Aquarius, to be honest with you, you know, because, and I say this just honestly from an astrology perspective, your astrology chart says you're resisting change, okay? It says you're resisting change because Saturn has been in the 4th house, which means you're supposed to be thinking about, do I like my home life? Do I feel love? You know, do I feel secure or do I feel limited and alone and like people aren't hearing me? Saturn rules your third house of communication. So a lot of this is like you unwilling, and like, God bless you, this has been some gnarly astrology, right? Saturn on all your planets, you've had Uranus oppose Uranus, partners start acting crazy. It brings up fear in regards to you acting out because you want to feel like you have control of your home. So the truth is that sometimes resisting some of that Uranian energy or sometimes not doing the Saturn work like makes you even more miserable, right? I hate to say that. I've been through these transits. I know how that works. I'll tell you that when there are changes in the home dynamic, or sometimes like living apart, or sometimes literally saying, hey, you know, we need to pick up and think about moving somewhere else, or we need to make some changes to the home front, shaking things up is necessary. You don't want to wait until Uranus starts squaring your Sun and your Mercury, because that is going to highlight your 11th house and your 10th house, which basically means he goes, I'm not having any fun either. I don't know if I want to be here. Get ahead of the curve on that and start addressing some of these issues head on. And know that Jupiter is on your Chiron, so it's highlighting issues relating to relationships. And the North Node is there as well. So I feel like it's a wonderful time for an astrologer, a therapist, a counselor, 7th house people that can come in and say, okay, how do you create change, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Good luck. I know that's a lot. What's up, Tiara? I saw you snuck in there. Let me pull up your chart. Man, just this little iPad has a mind of its own tonight. You're welcome. Good luck. That's a difficult one. Okay, so we have got, let's see. Readings are now closed. So if you guys send payments, I will send them back. Unfortunately, because we got a lot of people, so I apologize, but readings are closed. Tiara says, what's going on with my Saturn square? It's been so painful. I have a half-channeled message about the lesson I'm supposed to take forward, and I can't seem to get the rest of it. Ooh, I got you. Tiara, thank you. All right. So Saturn square. So let's see. So we've got transit Saturn in Aquarius. It is squaring your natal Saturn. Ouch. The last couple days. Ouch. Ouch. The good news is it's just about over. Okay. So you're through the thick of it. So you got Saturn, the ruler of your 7th house of relationships. It is chilling in your 9th house, and it's in a square from your natal 5th. Here's the question. What are you learning about your love life? What are you learning about your inner child? What are you learning about the need to create? Like those are the things that I want you to think about, right? You got Saturn in Scorpio, retrograde, so reevaluating things in regards to intimacy, joint resources, change, transformation, having to let go. You got a heavy Scorpio placement, Pluto, South Node, Saturn in the 5th. Stuff relating to the heart space, stuff relating to children, childhood, right? Your inner critic with Scorpio there. So here's Saturn in the 9th squaring that, and it's the opening square. And so my interpretation is, this is the first square since your Saturn return. It's like, are you doing the creative work yet? Have you worked through the inner child stuff yet? What have you learned about heartbreak? What have you learned about the need to express yourself? Are you making time for fun, right? These kinds of things. Are you struggling with issues pertaining to like intimacy? Are you struggling with issues with dating, right? At a 27, it's definitely about writing, communicating, receiving, sharing. Saturn and the Sun coming into conjunction with the 9th house can also be like reflecting on like your worth, releasing yourself from all the grief of not being perfect. So like I said, your inner critic, right? I got Saturn that's in my 5th house right now. I know that's like, yeah, it sucks. I mean, there's no easy way of putting it. Like I feel like Saturn in the 5th house natally or through transit can feel like it's just sucking the fun out of everything, right? And if you're in your Saturn square Saturn and you're having a difficult time, first of all, it's expected. But second of all, it's really saying that I think it's not expecting others, right, to fill in the blank for you. Not expecting others to tell you that you're perfect. I'm not saying that you do, but not feeling like you need that confirmation or that praise from other people to kind of feel complete, because Saturn is the ruler of your 7th. I also feel like something that can be really positive is about what you learn through times of grief, especially if you have a really strong Saturn signature. What you learn through times of grief. Hi, I'm talking to you, 10th house, Sun, Mercury, Venus. Holding yourself like, you know, like accountable to like extreme expectations. Like there can be a sense of you holding yourself to such a high standard that you're just incredibly hard on yourself. The good thing is that Jupiter's swinging through here, the North Node is coming, so you're gonna realize that you're actually doing a lot better than you give yourself credit for. And I think also, I love a good Aries in the 10th house comeback story, because with Jupiter showing up and the North Node showing up here soon, this is like a story of like rebuilding yourself, right? Rebuilding yourself and moving away from grief and pain and all of that stuff. Yeah, it's going to be like a rebrand. I know that sounds silly, but that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. So rather than like, you know, beating yourself up over it, look at things and go, okay, what did I learn and how am I making, you know, like, how am I making lemonade here? It's a good time to be a Cancer rising. Eclipses in your sign of Aries, Jupiter swinging through there. You know, I would go and learn about Chiron in conjunction to your Mercury and your Venus, because I feel like that's going to help you tap into like wounds revolving around worth and security out in the world and whether or not you feel successful. And it's also going to help you realize that there is a way for you to be able to take some of those experiences, like I said, and make lemonade. It's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. But the Saturn square is going to be over here pretty soon. By mid-March, you know, Saturn's going to move into Pisces. It's just been really, really heavy the last couple days. Oh, cool. You took a Chiron workshop. Awesome. Yeah, that's really important, especially considering the fact that you do have Gemini intercepted in this chart. So with Gemini intercepted, it can be hard to find the words. Journaling and breathwork exercises will really help throughout this transit for you. And a lot of it is stuff that needs to be done at home, because Mercury also rules your 4th house. So making a conscious effort to be doing that work and not just focusing on the work that you're doing out in the world, but doing work on yourself, you know, working on the root stuff, grounding, all of those things. If for a Cancer rising, Pluto going into your 8th house right now, that's also whole sign. I mean, it's a big change. So that's going to be about embracing the change and like really kind of just clearing the decks, right? But yeah, Saturn square Saturn is what are you learning? And likely there is some sense of you developing like a skill or a task or something or a belief system that you're going to carry into the future, right? That you're going to continue to keep working with and like believing and like further kind of developing. It might seem more so when it gets into Pisces, but the nice thing is like, you know, now you're going to get a break. Saturn's going to trine your ascendant. It's going to help stabilize your emotions, and it's going to also come into a trine with Pluto in the 5th. So then I think it's going to be about you doing work with like a spiritual teacher or a mentor or a guru, and like how you're creating from whatever it is that you're learning and like getting the emotions in check, you know? Hopefully. Hopefully that's helpful. Keep us updated. Look forward to South Node conjunct Pluto. That's really fun. I just finished that up not too long ago. That's the real clearing. And I think the purging out of 3 is going to be about what you're writing, how you're communicating and being raw and kind of vulnerable, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Good luck. Thank you for being a level 3 person. I appreciate it. What's up, Sonia? Oh my gosh, everybody's been talking about these crazy electronics. I'm over it. I mean, I feel like it's the Mercury square Uranus that's going to be like a nightmare the next week. Ugh. Okay, so we've got Miss V, Mary Lynn, Jennifer, and Tonga. You are very welcome. Good luck. Let's look at Miss V and see what she's got going on. February 1st, 78. Nope, you guys are still, we're still waiting a little bit. So I've got Miss V, Marilyn, Jennifer, Tonga, Susan, L, Valley, Chelsea, Christine, Mistro City, Joseph, Rachel, Brandon, Jenna, Bridget. So if you are not the next 4 names that I've called, you can just hang out for a hot minute. So Miss V, Marilyn, Jennifer, and Tonga. Miss V says, Longmont, Colorado, February 1st, 78, new moon reading. Don't worry, you can grab a snack. Whenever we have the astrology readings around the new or the full moons, it's busy. So let's talk about this new moon reading, shall we? It's going to be in Pisces. So it's coming in technically in your Placidus second house. I think you got 2 of these, huh? So, money, resources, right? Sustainability. It is going to, let's see, how is it aspecting your chart? It's not really aspecting too much. I guess it's going to make a slight sextile to your ascendant. But you know, I like this new moon because it's got the conjunction to Saturn, so it's helping us really ground something out and solidify something. On top of that, we also have Mercury in Aquarius conjunct your Venus this day. So it's like doubly setting intentions in regards to what do I love, what do I value, what do I possess, right? Because Mercury rules your 7th house. So asking other people for support, setting intentions in regards to feeling more stable in your resources, bringing more of those resources in. And at the time of the new moon, Mercury is going to kind of trine your Pluto in your midheaven. So that's really great for also just bringing in more stable income, you know, from work in general. So I would use this new moon for love and relationship and also financial and abundance intentions. Being that it's going to be in a water sign, but you're seeing air trines, I would advise you to like maybe write out a list of intentions or manifestations. You can put it in a bath, right? And you can dissolve it into a bath, or you can put it into a bowl with like crystals, and then maybe like you take that water and you know you pour it all out all over your you know front porch or something to kind of like bring abundance into the home. But you want to work with water and air elements. And a new moon in the 2nd house is slightly in opposition to your Saturn. So, I mean, I guess that's the strongest aspect that you're going to be having here. The opposition to your Saturn in Leo. So it's like where you're getting what you need versus what other people are willing to give you. Saturn also is the traditional ruler of your 2nd house. So I think it's a lot about working on self-esteem, working on security, stability, right? So feeling solid. The 2nd house is about feeling solid and feeling grounded. You're going to like it being that you have a Scorpio moon. It's not forming, you know, a sextile or a trine or anything like that, but still you got some water elements in your chart. I also think that, you know, this being associated with a whole sign Sag 4th house, I think it's pertaining to money and resources that will be going towards home costs or home fees. So if you're like, I want to make more money so I can get a nicer place. I want to be making more money to save money so I can buy a home. I want to get, you know, a new piece of furniture or a new piece of art for the house, something like that. Those intentions can be also set during this time. But you know me, I like to use Placidus because the timing is going to be more accurate with that. So between Venus and Jupiter getting ready to go into your 4th house, I feel like it's saying, hey, I've got big plans for what I want to be doing with my home or even my family, and I need to kind of manifest some cash, or I need to bring in some beautiful things to help me feel a little bit more secure within my home base. It could even mean that you're wanting to manifest you know, more resources to be able to invite family over, because I see that you're going to have like Venus and Jupiter going into your 4th soon, or feeling like you can like book a trip back home to be with family, or that you're, you know, decorating your space so people who come and visit, it's more comfortable. That's the other way I can look at this. But I love a new moon in the 2nd house. It's the time to set intentions in regards to your money and your manifestation. I would definitely focus on doing that. And I love that Mercury and Venus are conjunct. I feel like other people are going to be giving you praise and appreciation. You may get a gift from someone, right? It might be like, you know, somebody giving you some praise, but somebody might give you something. With all these planets in the second house, you might get a little gift from another person. I wonder if it's going to be like a piece of jewelry or food or something like that. Somebody might give you something sweet with Mercury conjunct your Venus, or they might give you some really positive feedback in regards to what you've been doing work-wise. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Miss V. Do all your money magic, girl. Hey, Joyce. He had his birthday, but he's somewhere here in the chat. He's lurking around. You'll see him. Okay, so we have Mary Lynn. Is that correct? Am I saying this correct? 5/16/94. I've never seen it spelled that way, so you're gonna have to tell me. Also, I'm terrible with names, so I apologize in advance. But I was like, how do you pronounce that? Mary Lynn? May 16th, 94. 1:28 a.m. That's correct. We got you here as a Pisces rising, Sun in Taurus, Moon in Cancer. There you go. Okay, so it is Mary Lynn. All right, so to make sure, or Mary Lynn, I don't know. So your question was cool. It was different than what I usually hear. I like that. She says, what is recommended for me to enhance my daily spiritual practices? Spoken like a true Saturn and Pisces on the ascendant. Okay, so first of all, you're coming into your Saturn return soon. You kind of get a double dose of Saturn because Saturn's going to sit conjunct your ascendant on and off in all of 2023. It'll retrograde back, hit it again, and then next year you're coming into your Saturn's return. So something that I would recommend for you looking at this is that Saturn rules your 12th house. Saturn also rules your 11th house. I like the idea of meditation just in general for Saturn and Pisces, but I think if you have Saturn on the ascendant at an 11, I would like to see you doing like group meditation, but you can be doing it with people at a distance. So maybe find like a group that's meeting on YouTube, or maybe you like join a group of some kind and you're willing to say, okay, we're going to do these joint meditation or these global meditations. Where you can be focusing on, you know, meditating at the same time as like a group of other people, like at the same time, if that makes sense. And there's lots of them out there. So whether you're finding one that's like meeting regularly, you know, on YouTube and they do it live, or there's like private groups and you donate to that, I would really like to see you doing that. I think Saturn and Pisces is gonna teach everybody that we need to do something productive, and we need to be focusing on doing something with our alone time, not just watching Netflix or like, you know, like binging and surfing on the internet, or, you know, smoking or drinking. Saturn is about sobriety. So I'm not telling you should be sober. It's not what I'm saying, but I do feel like that may be a theme of being more realistic with your goals, and where you can build on the frequencies and be meditating and collaborating with other people who are meditating on the same things can be really positive. But I think it's going to be like stuff relating to like world peace, as weird as that sounds, right? Because Saturn and Pisces wants peace, and an 11, it's about collective peace, you know, working with like other light workers and people who are like wanting to kind of set those intentions out there so we can start healing the vibrations of the planet. I would also say that this is a really great question, considering the fact that you have Saturn and the Sun meeting in the 12th house. It's like, okay, what do I do with this time? From the sounds of it, you probably already know, or you realize that you've got another year of kind of focusing on spending more time by yourself. It doesn't mean that you can't connect with other people. It just means that you're going to have more time for kind of rest and reflection. Now, spiritual habits, right? Because that would be more you know, Uranus. You have Uranus in conjunction to Neptune. So it's bringing me back to what you're doing with group endeavors. It's also bringing me back to thinking like, do you work with music? Do you work with water? Do you work with magic, right? It's in the earth element. So I'm wondering, like, working with crystals could be a thing, working with herbs can be a thing. Maybe there's like a collective group who's like, okay, this is the herb that we're going to be brewing, and then we, you know, drink this tea, and then we're doing a meditation. These might be the kinds of things that you're going to want to connect with. Obviously, astrology is really great too. I love everybody from the late 80s into the mid 90s because you guys have that Neptune-Uranus conjunction, or you have Saturn somewhere thrown in there as well. So definitely developing groups that are talking and sharing some of where the world is going to help you kind of focus on meditating, making that possible. A lot of people are going to realize through the Saturn and Pisces transit that what we're all thinking about, whether we're collectively holding space for a new positive kind of shift in consciousness, or if everybody's spiraling and they're doing the freak out in Pisces, that we're also like projecting that out there, and that can be reverberating back to us. Yeah, I mean, and if you want to take it a step further, if we look at your Jupiter, you have Jupiter trine Saturn. South Node is conjuncting your Jupiter right now. So you're really interested in like research, the occult, spirituality, anything about magic and mysticism and like all of that fun stuff. So I wonder if you're going to dabble in that a little bit. Jupiter in the 8th definitely has a connection to the more kind of esoteric or spiritual, or maybe even bringing in karmic partners who can help you start learning more about some of the stuff. I wonder if with the Jupiter trine Saturn, if it's going to be like Tantra or Kundalini work. That might be something else that you learn more about, because you have a lot of knowledge with that Jupiter and Scorpio in the 8th house on these topics. It just might be a matter of unlocking that. And you're gonna have Jupiter and Uranus conjunct your Sun next year. Holy cow! So that's going to be happening while you're having your Saturn's return. So I would anticipate, number one, that can definitely change something about what your purpose is, and like where you're feeling like there is a need for you to shift what you're doing work-wise, or to be of service in a different way. It might be like writing. That might unlock some things on your South Node, where you're writing, or you're traveling, or you're sharing, and you're learning more about the language of astrology, literally in the 3rd house. But it also might represent that you start channeling or like writing a book, or you start learning more about healing modalities. I'm really curious to see what happens here, because between those transits and the transits that are coming into your 2nd house, you're getting ready to develop new skills. So if you got one more year with Saturn behind your ascendant, I would say focus on what you're studying and working on behind closed doors, because next year is going to be the grand finale. Kind of the coming out of the closet. How interested are you in astrology or spirituality, hands-on healing? That might be something else with your Sun in the 3rd house. Wow, Sun in opposition to Pluto too. Holy cow, you have a very interesting chart. Your Your Wi-Fi is going bonkers. Joyce says, did I miss a birthday? The best astrologer predicted when I would get pregnant, and you were spot on. Thank you. I think I had like 70 something babies that I predicted last year. It was like crazy. Every year it's more and more. Obviously I have more clients. That's probably why, but I'm really good at predicting those babies. Hopefully that was helpful for you, Mary Lynn. Exciting times. I can't wait to see what happens during your Saturn return. You have huge transits happening. We've got Jennifer, Tonga, Susan, and Elle. Let's look at Jennifer. And ooh, Jennifer's got a synastry. She has got a synastry. So let's take a look. So Jennifer. Let's see. I've been meditating a lot on sobriety as a theme since the beginning of this year. I'm getting into yoga right now. Amazing. Ooh, we got other people hoping for pregnancy fairies. Keep me updated. Okay, so Jennifer says, synastry relationship. I find the synastry between the charts to be the exact opposites. What's your insight on the synastry between the two? So I've got you 8/17/92 at 12:30 a.m. in Miami, and the other person at 12/18/84 for 30 a.m. in Pittsburgh. Okay, I find the synastry to be opposite. Well, North node on your ascendant, South node Saturn on your descendant. That can be tricky. Mars conjunct Lilith, Sun conjunct the North node. And it looks like their ascendant is Scorpio. Okay, so here's something that I'll tell you, okay? Squares, oppositions, right, in synastry is not always a bad thing. When you see somebody who's got planets that are on your nodes or square your nodes or square your angles, like I like that, because an easy relationship that's boring, like there's no growth, okay? So you do kind of benefit from having some aspects between the nodes and also the squares. Sometimes opposites attract. You might find that it's challenging because you guys have a lot of fixed placements, and this guy, like his astrology lights your chart up like a freaking Christmas tree, like big time. So if we look at you being a Leo Sun, Taurus rising, his North node is on your ascendant, so it's bringing the attention back to you, and it's about the embodiment of the Taurus ascendant, which is beauty, harmony, stability, resources, right? And he's got his South node on your 7th house cusp, so that can represent, okay, been here before, there's some familiarity here. And his Saturn is on your descendant. So that can be like glue, which binds you guys together, but it can also feel like, oh my goodness, this is limiting, and it's like really challenging to kind of, you know, find a way to get along with Saturn on the descendant, especially in Scorpio. 2 is, if we look at the top part of your chart where you have Saturn in Aquarius, his Mars is there. So his Mars and his nodes create a grand fixed cross in your chart on your angular houses, which means you're going to look at this person and go, I don't know if I'm going to marry you or strangle you. So it can drive you really crazy. Equally, he's got his Venus on your midheaven. He has got his Sun on your North node. This guy's got your number. Now, if we were to flip it around, right, he's a Scorpio rising with Saturn on his ascendant and his South nodes on his ascendant. So he's kind of grouchy. But your ascendant sits on his descendant, so he's attracted to Taurus type energy because he's Scorpio rising. Equally, your Sun sits in his 10th house, so he feels like you challenge him and you challenge his authority. And your natal Saturn sits in his 4th house of home and family. You guys do this to each other, right? My point being is that just looking at it from his astrology on your chart, I'm really curious, like, what you've learned about the dynamic between you and this guy, and where he really teaches you that you have to sometimes assert yourself, right? There is sometimes a need to be like, no, thank you, or, you know, I need to do things my way. He'll bring that up. And I think between his South node and his Saturn on your Pluto as well, that's some really heavy karma. On top of all of that, right? His North node's on, his Sun is on your North node. So if you have somebody who's got their personal planets, like their Sun or their Moon in your 8th house, it can be like hypnotic, and it definitely change and transform the way that you look at relationships. Your North node in the 8th is about transformation. It's about intimacy and working out issues in regards to fear. And his Sun and his Neptune sits there. I'm just going to be really honest with you, okay? And I don't judge people based off their charts. I wouldn't want somebody to judge me based off of mine because it's a hot mess. But I feel like a Scorpio rising with Saturn on the ascendant, with the Sun and Neptune conjunct, with the Moon and Pluto in his 12th house, with Mars in his 4th house, square his Saturn. He grew up in a dynamic where people were kind of like rough and tumble, and they'd kind of fight a little bit, and there was like some friction and some back and forth. And I also feel like he's learning in this lifetime not to be selfish with Saturn and the South node on the ascendant, not to be grumpy, and to really embrace the North Node in his 7th house to really embrace also Venus-related things. Well, throughout this last year, he's had Saturn in his 4th house on his Mars, which means he's, you know, struggling with the idea of home and family, and he's had Saturn conjunct his Venus, so there's been karmic relationship stuff. And I gotta tell you, there's nothing that agitates a Scorpio rising or a Saturn in Scorpio more than a Leo sun. So you challenge him, right? There's some aspect of you challenging him. So any which way I slice it, it's more than just your stereotypical, like, oh, there's a square here or there. Like, you guys have squares across the board. And if you look at what's been going on with the astrology throughout, you know, 2022, into 2023, lots of squares between Uranus and also Saturn. So this is a person who's literally had to focus more on working through their issues, working through hostility, working through frustration, figuring out what he's building, what his goals are. It's going to get a little bit easier here once Saturn gets out of his 4th house, but somebody like this is, I feel inclined to tell you, like, you choose a person like this, you're basically committing to being with somebody who is going to be very stubborn, and you guys aren't going to see things you know, the same way. And with his Saturn square your sun and your Chiron, he can trigger wounding that you have in regards to relationships with men, and it can kind of mirror some issues that maybe you've had with like father figures. Because you have Sun conjunct Chiron, because you have Sun opposed Saturn, because you have Sun in opposition to Lilith, he represents that archetype of somebody who has been hurt or somebody who's gone through some difficult family dynamics, and he's playing that out in the world or within relationships. You know what I'm saying? So be careful. I'm not saying you can't take up in this relationship. It makes sense that you're, you know, super drawn to him, but there's something else that's going on here that makes me feel like throughout the next couple of years with the Uranus and the Jupiter squares, it can be very challenging for you guys to see eye to eye, because the direction of where your life is going is like, nope, I need more focus on me, what's going to work for me. And the direction of where his life is going is he needs to be more sacrificial and be willing to kind of lean into relationships and doing things out of his comfort zone, right? Jupiter and Uranus are going to oppose his Saturn, which means relationships are going to be very tumultuous unless he's really willing to kind of like open up and not be so rigid. So it's hard for me to imagine that there isn't a lot of resistance with this person right now. Basically, and that Moon Pluto, ugh. Did he lose his mom really early on? Like, did his mother die, or did she like abandon him? He's got Mars in the 4th and Moon Pluto in the 12th. Just wondering. But your Pluto sits on his ascendant. And I think that this is like you showing up and basically being like, okay, I'm here. Are you going to change? You know? Like, you can kind of see through his kind of like rough kind of exterior. And I also think with your Saturn conjunct his Mars is just reminding him, hey, like, you need to do something with this energy. You can't just kind of carry it around, you know? Clearly, you guys have some kind of karmic responsibility. If you've got Saturn contacts and if you've got contacts on the North Node, at the very least, he's somebody who comes in that just illuminates the fact that you can't continue on with some of these patterns. And perhaps you're going to do the same for him. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. Hopefully that's helpful. That is a wild synastry chart. Let me know. Let me know your thoughts on that. So we've got Tonga, Susan L, and Chelsea Parker. Let's pull up Tonga. But Jennifer, yeah, if you're here, I want to hear feedback on this person, because that looks like somebody that you're like, oh my gosh, just let me love you, and they're just a hot mess. Okay, so we've got Tonga. Let's see. Oh, I want to hear this. I was laughing the whole time. I have some of those aspects with my husband, so I understand how that works. But, you know, sometimes the friction is good because you encourage each other to grow, right? In fixed squares, they don't want to change. All right, so Tonga, what's up, girl? She says, new moon in Pisces astrology reading. Hi, Candace. The new moon will be conjunct my natal sun. I'd like your insights as to how I can personally expect ideas and how to manage the heavier, more sobering effects of the solar return. Got it. Well, I mean, first of all, you're going to have a new moon on your birthday. Let's just start there. That's a fresh slate, clean slate. You're starting over. So I would say the next couple days, just take note of what you're clearing out personally, right? Because the moon's going to swing through that conjunction to Pluto. That's about, whoa, I'm changing something about the relationship to myself and other people. It's going to swing through Aquarius. It's going to hit your Mercury. It's going to be about speaking something into existence, having this awareness. Then it's going to come into conjunction with Saturn right before your birthday. So I would say the next 2 or 3 days is like declutter, detoxing, cutting out, like holding space, getting ready for the new. Because when you have a new moon like this, it gets really, really, really dark right before the new moon. So you'll see like friendships kind of blow up sometimes. You'll see unexpected things happen. Your body can feel kind of wiped out. Like the lesson is clearing, 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 really making space for the new, okay? But the good news is that a new moon is going to give you the opportunity on your birthday to say, hey, we're doing things differently this year. Now, technically, Pisces is going to be more so connected to your whole sign third as a Capricorn. Okay, so you would think of things like communication, writing, trips, but it's in your Placidus first. So it's about how do I express myself, right? What do I think? How do I feel, moon? What am I changing and transforming when it comes to the relationship with myself? How am I bringing my attention back to myself? It's not about other people, it's about me. How do I want to feel? How do I want other people to see me, right? So that's what I would really focus on. I like the fact that it's going to be trining your natal Uranus because I feel that it is quick, rapid change. Like for the next year, yeah, you're going to have Saturn on your sun. Okay, I'm not going to candy coat that. That is rocky. There can be a sense of you wanting to redefine yourself, coming to term with aging. You can be a little bit more isolating. There can be a sense of also having heavier moods. But Saturn's going to move through your sun pretty quick. You're going to get it more on the back end later in the fall. So when it's retrograding in like September, October, November, and it's sitting on your sun for a little while, yes, you're going to feel that again. But this new moon is super amazing for everybody. It doesn't just have to be your birthday to use this. You're going to have the ability to set intentions with this new moon, and Saturn's going to keep hitting it all year long, bringing you back to this goal. Now, on a very physical level, right, I've seen transits like this where people are like, I want to gain muscle, I want to lose weight, I want to make changes in terms of my demeanor, I want to reverse aging, like whatever. That's what Saturn can be. Pay attention to heart-related health things, right? Pay attention also to your immune system, because I've seen with harsh aspects with the sun and Saturn, especially in Pisces, we can feel under the weather. We can feel more depressed, like you need sunlight. It's harder to see the sun with Saturn on the sun, right? So you have to make sure that if you're in a place where there's lots of weather, you're getting out there. 2 is like you're also going to notice that there's going to be more dryness, and this can be literally or figuratively. Like you might notice that your skin is much more dry. Like remember this when I had Saturn on my sun. So you have to work harder to kind of stay hydrated and stay moisturized. But also there can be much more dryness in terms of your personality and kind of just how you're coming across to other people. So be mindful for that. But the fact that it's trining Uranus is I think that it's just more about growth, spiritual growth, maturity, and committing to changing things or switching things up a little bit. I like that. And also just what you're valuing, what you're learning, you know. Saturn in positive aspect to Uranus is going to help you make changes that are going to be stable. So if you're wanting to, you know, suddenly decide, hey, I'm going to go back to school and take a course, you know, you'll find the time to do that. I want to travel more frequently. I'm going to make the time to do that. So really look at the aspects between Saturn and Uranus. And you're a sun trine Uranus, so you're already used to that energy, but Saturn's going to say, let's use our intuition a little bit more, right? Let's listen to our intuition. Let's meditate. Let's reflect. These are going to be things that are going to give you the faith or the, the vision to be able to kind of move forward when it comes to some of the changes that you're making. Now, I think of like a Capricorn rising. I think a lot of you guys are going to start walking, biking. A lot of you guys are going to start reading self-help books. A lot of you guys are going to say, you know what, I want to learn a new language, or I want to learn a new software. I'm going to finally teach myself tarot, something that you do with your hands. And Saturn's your chart ruler. So Saturn coming into conjunction with your sun, the reason why this is going to be challenging is that you have in your chart Leo intercepted. So if you look at your 7th house, it's swallowed up. So it's a blind spot. So you're going to go, I don't know, who am I in regards to other people, or my boundaries in regards to other people. So it's going to teach you a lot about just paying attention to your energy and your emotional well-being. And it's going to really push you to have more clarity in terms of your words and practicing having boundaries and saying, no, thank you. You're not welcome here. I'm not available, rather than hiding, right? And you have Sun conjunct Sun conjunct Lilith. I don't know if you know that, but Lilith in Pisces is like this kind of like sea witch, especially on your sun. So you may start doing more work with like sea goddesses, or maybe you're going to feel drawn more to wanting to be around the oceans or learning more about the archetype of Lilith. In particular, it's about embracing that inner kind of mystical, magical, kind of witchy, wild side. And maybe like potions might be something that you get into, or baths and things that you can physically like soak in, or oil, like learning more about like anointing yourself in oil. That might be another really cool way to use the transit, especially because you got Pluto on your ascendant. So this is like a very witchy transit that you're going through. Do you feel like you're like starting to embrace a little bit more of this archetypally? Just curious. It's going to be more refined though with Saturn going through there. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. Happy birthday. Definitely go cast that solar return. Go and take a look at it. New moon birthdays are very, very ripe with the opportunity for new positive change. All right, so those of you guys who are asking who I have, I will give you a rundown because I have not updated this. Luis, Elsa, Carol, and Patrick, you guys all snuck in there. So that's who I have on top of my other list. So Susan, L, Chelsea, Christine S, and Christine W, you guys are on deck. Let's look at Susan. What's up, Susan? I laughed when I saw your question. Susan says, okay, my favorite popular astrologer, please tell me my life is going to get better because it sucks right now. 10-12-62. Yeah, this is a little challenging here with the Scorpio rising bit. Okay. What's going on with Mars? Oh, so Pluto's coming into an opposition with your Mars. Okay. So a couple things. For starters, the Sun-Saturn stuff is really heavy in your chart at the moment. That is all the karmic responsibility for home, for property, for parents, for family. And I would be really present with some of that stuff at the moment. It's going to ease up a little bit as we start seeing, planets get out of Aquarius, but for the time being, it's heavy. Issues with communication, issues with cars, issues with neighbors, issues with siblings or relatives. That seems to be a theme with Saturn in your 4th and, Mercury on your South Node and on your Saturn. Just difficulty in terms of the frame of mind, right? So this is going to pass pretty soon, but I think what you're really picking up on is that if you look at the North and the South Node, you have got the North Node in Taurus in your 6th house of just work, busyness, taking care of things, daily routine, and health. You got the South Node in Scorpio in your 12th house where you're like, I feel lost. Coming into a square with your natal nodes. So this is the transit square the natal nodes. This is like where you look at things and you're like, I'm at a loss. Like, I don't know how to move forward. What I've been doing ain't working. And, you know, like I'm trying to figure out where I'm going and I feel blind. It's normal to feel like that. On the other side of this, as the nodes continue to move, they're going to come and they're going to square your Saturn, which is going to be in your 3rd house, which is about how you communicate with family out of 4. Documents, conversations, things that are going to be like definitive. Then we're going to see the nodes in June and July move to the last degrees of Taurus and Scorpio, and it's going to square your Mars, which is your chart ruler. Are you having legal issues? Are you going back and forth about land ownership? What's happening here? Because that's some heavy stuff. And then on top of that, here we have Pluto, and Pluto is coming in for the kill shot. Pluto is your chart ruler, and Pluto is about to oppose Mars in Leo. So you're starting to get the full effect of, you know, Saturn, what the Saturn return has been about, right, through your 3rd house. Pluto will be in an opposition to your Mars. Be very careful with words. Be very careful with like getting into altercations with either siblings or with neighbors, because it can really get messy. And you want to start tracking when the moon goes through the fixed signs, because you're going to start seeing this as early as like March 23rd. North node of the moon, boom, come into a square with Pluto. Boom, come into a square with your Mars, right? Saturn's coming out of a square with your Venus as well. So yeah, things have been really challenging with some of these transits, but please track when the moon is going through Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius. You need to be doing this so you know when some of these like feathers are going to get ruffled. Let's talk about the positive though, because there is some positive here. You are going to see, you know, as Mars is continuing to move through your 8th house, this will be more so next month. It's going to start funneling into trines with your ascendant, your Neptune, and your Venus. And I feel like that's about clearing, detoxing, decluttering, right? Equally, you're going to have Saturn come into conjunction with Jupiter in your 4th. What's going on? Do you have to take care of a parent? Are you feeling the burden of stuff that's going on with one of your children? What's going on here? Like you're taking care of someone or something is what it looks like at the end of next month. And maybe also feeling like there is a need for you to really reevaluate your financial situation. Saturn can be definitive though, like it can bring you long-standing things. So if you're wanting to sell a property, buy a property, something like that, by the beginning of April, it's looking like that's very doable. But I feel like you're going to have a very difficult time communicating with other people with that Pluto in opposition to Mars. And I would say that energy is not going to calm down until the nodes change signs in July. And even then, you're still going to see that Pluto opposition off and on for this next year. Be very careful with signing things. Be very careful with communication, because things can get really confrontational very quickly. People can become very combative with Pluto in opposition to Mars. And it can bring up some legal issues. But yeah, I mean, until the nodes change signs, unfortunately, this is kind of what you're going to see. Now, the one positive thing that you're going to have happening, though, is you are going to start having Saturn that's coming into a trine, you know, slightly with your ascendant. Really, it's aspecting more the south node. So what are you completing? What are you closing out? What are you saying goodbye to? Home, family, property, something like that's taking place. I would say really watch siblings, because I wonder if it's going to be like siblings or other extended relatives that are having health problems. I don't like saying that, but I'm just being honest, because you got Pluto that's coming into conjunction with Saturn. You got Saturn coming into conjunction with Jupiter. That makes me feel like there's some back and forth where you're talking with relatives about home and property dynamics in the off chance that they are having some health issues. That's definitely part of this. And then you're going to have Jupiter coming in for the square as well. Once Jupiter gets into your 7th house, you have more support from other people. People are going to be more generous with you. So it's like you got to get to about July. July, things start to kind of ease up a little bit. You come out of the Pluto in opposition to Mars. You're finally going to see the nodes change signs, and Jupiter is going to be in your 7th house, and you're going to have support from other people. And you're a Libra, so you're going to start getting hit with some of these eclipses as well. But yeah, this is some heavy stuff, man. I mean, you know, a lot of Scorpio risings right now are telling me, like, when is it going to end? Like all the family stuff and the grind at home and working and taking care of a house, or, you know, dealing with relatives. Like, it's been a lot, but it's getting ready to break. The other positive is also the fact that we are going to see Jupiter that's going to start making positive aspects to your natal Uranus and your Pluto. So friends can be support as well. It's not just going to be romantic partners. You're going to see that other people are going to come in and they're going to support you and basically say, hey, what do you need? You know, how can I help you? How can I be of service? So part of the lesson here is, as you're going through these transits, Pluto coming in opposition with Mars is saying you have to speak out. It's not just about freaking out and having meltdowns when things get difficult. It's about active, constant communication and letting people know what's happening, so that way you're not feeling like you're having meltdowns. Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's helpful. I guess the one positive is that you got that Jupiter that's on your moon, so it's trying to remain optimistic and positive. And I would assume that's having some support perhaps from a younger person, perhaps even from one of your children. I think last time I spoke to you, you said that your son was living next door, if I remember correctly. So I'm wondering, with Jupiter in your 5th house, sextile Saturn, it's like the back and forth, going back and forth with your kid, and how he's helping you kind of work through some of this stuff. Keep me updated. I'm sending you lots of good vibes. I know that that's really challenging, but once you're getting to like summertime, things are going to ease up a little bit. Okay? Good luck. We have got Nadia, who had a relationship question, a synastry question. Let's see. We've got Nadia and Tim. So you're September 18th, 72 at 6:20 p.m. and that was in Germany. He's November 4th, 71. And that was at 10:04 a.m. in Savannah, Georgia. So you're a Pisces rising, sun in Virgo, moon in Capricorn. Oh boy. Happy lunar return right now. Pluto's on your moon. Wowzers. So that's a lot. For starters, I'm looking at just thinking about your transits. I'll talk about the synastry, but I'm just thinking about your transits. Sun, Mercury, Mars in the 7th house, right? So there's this focus on relationships with others, communication with others. You got a combust Mercury, and Mars is there. So that constant back and forth information with you and another person. And that's just getting beat down right now because Neptune's in opposition to your sun. So there's a lot of like, do they see me? Do they hear me? What's going on? So there can be some challenges in feeling seen or heard right now with relationships. And that's been further kind of exacerbated because of Mars retrograde in your 4th. So it's just like, there's been a lot of like, does anybody see me? Like, what direction is my life going in? Like, what's happening with partnerships? What's happening with work? To me, it seems like there's been this sense of like just feeling like everything is distorted and nothing makes sense recently. What's up, Alvin? I love you too. Thanks for seeing me on Friday night. Looking at this chart, you know, he's got planets in your 7th house. So, you know, having Pluto, Uranus, the sun all in your 7th house, it does bring this theme of partnership and relationship. Interesting person. They do happen to have Venus at 29 degrees, Mercury at 29 degrees. Okay, so Saturn is actually squaring their Mercury and their Venus right now, so it can be a little bit more challenging to kind of find the love. I think that you're definitely, it makes sense why you guys came together with the South Node Venus stuff. I think with the South Node conjunct your Venus in Leo, it does kind of suggest that there is some familiarity there, that you guys have been connected in the past, that the two of you guys have done this kind of dance before, whenever somebody's Venus is in close contact to your South Node, there is that sense of familiarity and that you guys have like loved or been connected in a past life. So they seem like, oh, just saying hello again. The challenge that I'm having looking at this is that this person does have Mars in your 12th house and their North Node in your 12th house. And so that can basically bring up the theme of like, where have they gone? What is the purpose? Why are there these breaks in patterns? And the 12th house is kind of like your blind spot. And it's fascinating because he's got a number of 29s in his chart. Venus at 29, Mars at 29, right? And you do too. Jupiter at 29, Moon at 29. These are all karmic degrees. I like his sun in your 7th. I think his sun conjunct your 8th house cusp makes me feel like there is this feeling of, you know, are we going to keep the partnership or are we going to lose it? And his Venus and his Mercury on your Lilith makes it very difficult to like detach. It makes it very difficult to detach because it's like he's almost like your kryptonite in terms of like, you know, sexually or energetically. It's just like you can't disengage from this person. Now your Jupiter sits on his ascendant. He's a Sag rising. So to some extent, it makes sense that he gravitates towards you or that you bring him happiness or you bring him some kind of like enlightenment. I could see that as well. But just knowing that, you know, he's a Sag rising, he's got Gemini in the descendant, you know, your Saturn sits on the descendant, there can be this feeling of, well, she expects too much from me, or, you know, she needs me to change too much. Like that's like, you know, saying that you need him to commit to communicating better, right? Or more consistently. And he's had Mars going through there, retrograde. He's had eclipses there. So I wonder if there's been a little bit of back and forth between the two of you and you have felt maybe like a little stunted in terms of being able to make decisions about your own life because this has been like up in the air personally. Once again, this is another person where I would say like you've got your work cut out for you. Somebody who's got, you know, their 7th house Lord and Venus in the 12th house with Saturn square it right now. It's like it's really difficult to get them to communicate effectively and to be open and honest about what direction things are going in. There may be a lot of fear there, right? About whether or not they're really ready to proceed forward. There's no doubt that there's a connection though, because also, you know, your sun in Virgo is conjunct his Juno. So there can be this sense of being like, wow, like we have the potential, like I can be what you need, right? And I could see you saying that with all that Virgo in the 7th house. I can be what you need, I can help you. But you're gonna have through your own transits right now with, you know, Saturn coming into conjunction with your ascendant, and you're also going to have Neptune in opposition to your sun. This feeling of like, what's the problem? Why are there delays? Can't we connect? Why are they not seeing me? Be very careful what you get involved in is my advice. Just looking at that. You know, in terms of like other aspects, I mean, he's got Mars square Venus, so there is going to be some hangups in terms of his relationships. But for you, you know, your Mars in the 7th house trying the moon might suggest that you're like, okay, well, let's try to at least like work through it, or let's try to at least be friends. Like, let's talk. And obviously Venus in Leo is going to want, it's going to want romance, and it's going to want like a fairy tale ending. That Venus natally being at 11 in your 6th house does make me feel like there are some challenges in relationships, as if that stellium of planets in Virgo in your 7th wasn't enough. Venus in the 6th house, have you already been divorced? Have you already experienced one divorce? And do you feel perhaps like there is like a pattern of getting involved with people who either A, you might work with and they might be coworkers, or B, do you feel like there's like a pattern of getting involved with people who have problems and hangups and habits and issues that keep them from being able to fully like move forward in relationships? Just food for thought. Not the easiest synastry, I guess is kind of what I'm getting at. Now, really strong Mercury transits are going to affect your relationships. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about Neptune in opposition right now to your Mercury and your Sun, and you're like, Why do people not see me? And, you know, he might be coming up with a whole list of reasons why he's either not ready or not capable or still working through something and not really able to show up. And you just want to be mindful that that Neptune opposition, even though it's been there for like the last 2 years, Saturn's going to come through there in about 2 years. So I would say this to anybody who has this much Virgo. Do not lose yourself right now building all of this emphasis and focus on somebody who 2 years from now may still say to you, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I'm doing. Such a shame. Because, you know, being a Scorpio, lots of opportunities for relationship expansion in this next year with Jupiter. Equally, I feel like he's really hurt from past relationships that didn't pan out. He's had eclipses and retrogrades in his 7th house. And a lot of people who have Gemini in the 7th, it's like one relationship ends and another person is ready. And if they can't get their mind wrapped around the idea of being ready for a relationship or letting go of the past, then they'll keep repeating the same patterns, right? So, very challenging. And I would be very careful with his Mercury and his Venus sitting in your 8th house, because there's this sense of always having that really strong connection. But it can be limited to just like physical, or somebody who's even afraid to even, you know, go beyond just kind of like being casual. I feel like South Node relationships should come with like a warning label. And I don't say that to be like pessimistic, but like they should, because you're going to keep playing out the same patterns over and over. And usually it's the South Node person that runs away. So his South Node is on your Venus. So it's like him running away from wanting to kind of have that romance. And a lot of it can mean like you guys are replaying some of the same patterns from past lives. And the question is are you going to keep doing it? Or are you just going to say, okay, enough already? If you're missing your opportunity, like, you know, I'll see you in the next go round, right? Challenging stuff. I like your Saturn on his descendant though, because you're like, you need to speak up. And I think that when you find that he's kind of going in circles or he's kind of coming and going, I would be really matter of fact. Mars is going to conjunct his Saturn soon. So somebody's going to tell him like what's on their mind and kind of give them a boundary or a lesson. Or excuse me, on his descendant. It's been conjunct his Saturn, but it's going to be on his descendant. Tell him to pick a lane. And don't spend 2 years being like, he's going to get it, he's going to get it, because it's going to take him some more time. Good luck. We've got, let's see, Chelsea, Christine, Mistro City, and Joseph. Chelsea. Sorry, guys. Sometimes I got to break people's hearts, but I'm going to tell you the truth. You're welcome. Okay, so let's pull up Chelsea. She is a Synastry as well. Okay, Chelsea Parker. There we go. Hey, Avong, not yet. We're a couple people behind. You got about 5 people before we get to yours. All right, Chelsea. Chelsea says, I'm July 23rd, 93, 1:25 a.m. And he's June 18th, 92. After a recent separation during the full moon in Leo, I initiated anything you can see moving forward. We have kids together and almost 11 years of history. It's not a simple uncoupling by any means, and despite knowing it's the right thing to do, it still sucks. And I guess I'm wondering if there's anything you can intuit from looking at the Synastry. Thanks for what you do. Thank you. Oof. So yet another situation with a Taurus rising. Guys, Taurus and Scorpio rising, and I'm not just saying this generally, okay? Like if you're a Taurus rising, the North Node is moving through your 1st house or through your ascendant, and Uranus is there where you're like, I need change. If you are a Scorpio rising, the South Node is going through your 1st house, so you are learning to decompress, release, let go, you know, not focus so much on fear, and you have to let that North Node in your 7th house and Uranus lead the way. Changes in relationships, all right? So really important, Chelsea, because you're a Taurus rising, Uranus is coming in conjunction with your ascendant. Pay attention to your body, pay attention to your nervous system, especially at 18 degrees. Here's the deal. Yeah, it's not easy. And you have a very challenging, series of transits going on at the moment. So just thinking about your astrology, Uranus on your ascendant, you're going through Saturn through your 10th house. It's squaring your ascendant or your descendant, bringing up responsibility, career, and things that put the pressure on you and other people. On top of all of that, you're coming into your Saturn's return. Okay? So some of the things that play out here, especially you have a late degree Saturn over the next month, is like the buildup to really things that have been happening for the last 2 years. Okay, 2. I'm really looking at Pluto, which is the ruler of your marriage house, coming into opposition with your sun. So it literally can represent somebody saying, hey, I need space, physically, I need space. Mars and Pluto both rule your 7th house. You've got Pluto there. Mars is natally placed in Virgo in your 5th, conjunct the moon. I wonder if this is not something that's like fully defined, just personally looking at your astrology until closer to perhaps the beginning of next year. Okay, so it may be like a slow burn. It might be a situation of being like, okay, we're taking space and then we're going to figure out later in the year. You really want to pay attention to July, August, and September 2023. Why? Well, as a Taurus rising, Venus will go retrograde through your 4th house, so there can be changes with a home dynamic where somebody's moving in, somebody's moving out, we're buying a house, we're selling a house type of vibe. And you're going to have a Mercury retrograde that's going to be in Virgo, which is going to be over your moon and your Mars, which can also be an indication of moving, but changes going on with children and matters of the heart. Now, as we get into the fall, we're going to start having eclipses that's going to be in Aries and Libra, and the South Node is going through Libra, so it can indicate that you're perhaps thinking about some kind of separation. Okay, that can be extended even to when the South Node goes into Virgo, so it might take a little bit more time. Knowing that they are a Pisces rising, they're a Virgo rising, hello, and your Saturn sits 6th house to their descendant, that can be challenging, and that can be an indication that there was going to be some rockiness right around your Saturn's return with the marriage. They do have Neptune in their 7th house. They also have, Saturn coming into an opposition with their ascendant. And I see that you have Moon and Mars on the ascendant. So do you all fight? I mean, obviously there's some issues in getting along right now, but do you find that, after having kids and having all of like that passion and all of that stuff, there's like some irritation? Because usually if somebody's got Jupiter in your 5th house, there's going to be an opportunity to start a family. If somebody's got Jupiter in the same sign as your Moon or your Mars, there's a lot of creating things together. But as the relationship progresses and you have children, and then you're like, well, we don't have fun, or we're not having romance, or there isn't date night, there can be this sense of just getting irritated because those things aren't happening, right? Both of you guys have Venus in Gemini. I have a theory that only Venus and Gemini should date Venus and Gemini because it's like dating 2 people anyway, so you guys can kind of get that duality. And it's kind of a bummer because your Saturn, even being in his 6th house, does trine his Sun. It does trine his Venus. And he's got Sun conjunct Venus, and it's combust, and it's conjunct the South Node. So that can be an indication of learning about love and loss in this lifetime. Neptune is really the ruler, though, of his 7th house, as is Jupiter. He's got Jupiter in Virgo, yeah. That is in his 12th house. So any particular reason why you guys are separating? Do you mind me asking, is there intimacy issues there with Jupiter in the 12th? Have you guys talked about doing family counseling since you're coming into Saturn opposed Jupiter? Is that something you're open to? Throughout the next 2 years, Uranus will still sit on your ascendant. Jupiter is going to join, and Jupiter and Uranus next year are going to oppose your Pluto. that makes me feel like that could be the kill shot of you being like, and that's a wrap, because I've changed so much that I find it challenging for us to kind of connect. I've seen this for Scorpio risings, and I've seen this for Taurus risings. If you have had Uranus in opposition to Pluto within this house, it's like either one person completely changes and feels like they're going mad and the other person can't cope, or vice versa. It could be you, right? So your chart actually talks about, through these transits, being like, I'm changing, you know, I'm changing about what I need for security, or how I want to express myself, or just I'm realizing there are new things that I want for myself, and like other people aren't going to respond well to change. A plethora of things. Ultimately, excessive drinking and lack of responsibility is a big factor. Intimacy hasn't felt the same. So one other thing I would say is, like, you do have Pluto in the 7th house. That doesn't mean that all of your partners are inherently bad, but there can be issues in regards to toxic situations. You do have 18 degrees on your descendant. 18 degrees can be a much more difficult degree because it does deal with habits and patterns and health and sometimes addictions, because it's a Virgo degree. So the fact that Jupiter and Uranus is sitting on your ascendant and it's going to oppose that 18 degree, it's like you being like, let me help you, let me help you. And that person can sometimes be like, no, I don't want the help, right? I still think intuitively that until you get to closer to the summer, a more definitive decision can be made. In the back of my mind, though, knowing that Pluto is coming in to Aquarius and it's going to oppose your sun is basically saying, yes, there is going to be a definitive change and transformation to how you identify out in the world. Oppositions can sometimes be a separation. So Pluto going into the 10th house is like you being like, nope, this is not going to be a living situation any longer. Defining yourself differently out in the world, and then the sun being the ruler of your 4th house. Be careful, because father figures, stepdads, brothers, they can be really nasty with your husband. If they feel like, you know, he's not doing his due diligence, as much as I hate to say that, like, I really feel like that's potentially something that could happen, you know? Be careful with that. Like, you know, if you know that there's people that are not going to be friendly, or they're going to be quarrelsome because Jupiter's coming into Taurus, right? It's just like, I wouldn't leave them alone in the same room. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to have to wait. For a Taurus rising, a Venus retrograde in your 4th is going to be a huge, yeah, exactly. Yes, you're going to see people who are going to do that. It's going to be even more challenging. And with Jupiter coming into the mix, it's going to be about you exposing truths. So it's like, it's going to get to a point in this next year where you're going to keep saying things like, you know, I just have to speak the truth. This is what he's really doing. This is what's really happening. And it can create some major conflicts. So just be careful. Please be careful, especially in April and May, because those transits are going to become really strong, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, you know, Mars conjunct the moon, it's your decision. For sure, with the first marriage that you were going to have children. You would really want to look at maybe the composite chart. So that's definitely something we can look at. But I would say in the back of your mind, obviously you got to do what's best for you, what's going to be safest and healthiest for you and your mindset and also your kids. And if you're feeling like that's not the case, if you guys do end up taking space, you know, you could hold off until July or August or September when these retrogrades happen to see okay, can we make amends here? But as a Taurus rising and seeing that all the transits are going through the 1st house, it's not even just so much that you're dealing with somebody who's in their toxic shit. It's that you're also learning you can't save them, you can't teach them. So a lot of it's being like, I got to put the energy on me. I can't save this other person. I can only hold space and try to help them if they want to help themselves. But the writing has possibly been on the wall with the Saturn transit throughout these last 2 years, right? I'm sorry, that's a bummer, man. That's hard, especially when you have kids and you've had Saturn. That's, you know, your natal Saturn's in opposition to Chiron and Juno. So that can be an indication at some point during your Saturn return that you were going to be like, okay, I'm separating, but it's because I don't feel loved, or I feel like I need to make the decisions I need to make because of kids. You know, big things happen during your Saturn return. Big things happen during your Saturn return. And I always tell my clients, you want to do that work 28 to 31. Otherwise, you know, what if it ends up being 20, 30 years from now and you had stayed in that relationship and you're still unhappy, then you want to leave when you're closer to being 60 and your kids are grown up and they're like, wow, mom, we saw the way that dad, you know, treated you. I mean, I'm not saying this to guilt you, but that's how I would think about it, of being like, I don't want to deal with this 30 years from now, you know? And I feel like also, like, you know, Saturn is about like really showing up and being like, I'm taking responsibility. And you have Saturn in the 11th house. So you have friends telling you right now, this is not a good relationship. It's not healthy. We can't support this. You need to make a change. And they're stepping in as well, right? That's very clear in your astrology. But you can always come back for a composite chart reading. And yeah, maybe you're clearing generational patterning, man. I mean, that's a big thing. If you're kind of going like, no, I'm not going to continue this or keep this going. Good on you for being willing to make that change. We're selling you lots and lots of love, and that's difficult, but you know, be strong, especially throughout this next month. Okay? Good luck. Really listen to Saturn. Okay, who else do we have? Those of you guys who are popping in, sorry, we already closed readings. We have a bunch of people that made donations that we got to get through. We got a lot of people. Thank you, E. All right, so we've got Christine Stevens and then Christine Wall. Christine Stevens. April 5th, 94, she says, I don't really have a specific question. I just want to see what's going on with me. Okay. Well, you're getting ready for your Saturn return. You got Saturn in Pisces in the 3rd house, so it's going to be a lot about communicating with partners, a lot about communicating with relatives, maybe, siblings. Off and on, you'll see Saturn kind of going back and forth over your Saturn all year. It's actually going to retrograde on your Saturn, so that's going to be... When is that going to be? Right around June. Okay. I'm going to put more videos out. I have a video that I put out about Saturn and Pisces. Go and check that out. But I'm going to do more about people who are going through their Saturn returns. But that's important. It's kind of a turning point. You're going to hear for Sag rising. It's about home. It's about family. Yeah, but it's about how you communicate with them. Maybe it's about moving or a vehicle. So you'll experience that at some point over the next 6 months. You got Jupiter coming into your sign. It's going to come into conjunction with your sun in the 4th, which is also another indication. There's positive changes on the forefront in regards to home and family. Possibly like moving further away, possibly making changes and expanding your home or family, especially things in relation to male figures. So like husbands, fathers, you know, boyfriends, brothers, things like that. And then we're going to see Jupiter swing into your 5th house, where it's going to conjunct your Venus. So if you're not in a relationship, it's really strong relationship energy. Like really strong. And I would say that anyway because you have Saturn at a 7, but really strong relationship energy, which is a colorful theme in your life, I would imagine. You've had a Mars retrograde since, you know, October of 2022 in your 7th. Perhaps a little bit of like a back and forth with like, do I want a relationship? Do I not? How do I communicate? You know, do I want to get back in the dating game? Are things working with who I'm with? It's been kind of topsy-turvy. But now it's finally starting to stabilize, and watching Mars continue to move through your 7th house, you know, it's been in a sextile to all your Aries. So if you did meet somebody, there's a sense of falling deeper in love or clearing out old relationship hangups. I really like this for this chart. You got the North Node swinging into your 4th house. So there's going to also be this focus on home and family. Family dynamic, private life, developing your home, like that's going to be a huge theme. Oh, there you are. Moving out of state later this summer to be closer to a sibling. I also left a long-term relationship for 1.5 years, and I've been thinking about stepping back into the dating world, but I've been struggling with communication. So we're hitting on all the primary points here. Living closer to a sibling, I would say get to know the neighborhood, like get out and about and like bike and like talk to people and feel more active. Saturn in the 3rd house can feel kind of like gun shy with communicating with people. But it's trying to get you to lean more into that. And what I like is that your Saturn naturally sextiles Venus. So I think it's about being sensitive, listening to your intuition, talking to people about your fears and being vulnerable and like really opening yourself up, because love is like super available. Maybe you'll get more into the dating game during the Mercury retrograde, you know, end of April, beginning of May. But between that, you got Juno going into your 7th house. I mean, you don't see it yet, but you're going to be in a pretty significant relationship next summer. You will be. With Jupiter and Uranus being in your 5th house, love can strike suddenly. New hobbies come, new opportunities for creativity and new passions can arise. Jupiter is your chart ruler, so as a Sag rising, Jupiter going through the 5th house for the next year or so, just be careful. Sometimes that can be a pregnancy transit. It can just be like out of the blue, especially because Venus is your 5th house lord. So between Jupiter coming into conjunction with Venus, and then you're going to see that there's eclipses that are going to still be there. If you don't believe me, watch the eclipse that happens right around the beginning of October. The end of October of this year, 2023, right? Saturn's off your moon, great. You've got Jupiter in your 4th house. I would be really excited. I would be very excited for some of the changes that are coming. The fact that you're going to be closer to a sibling. Be mindful with that Mercury Mars, you know, closer to 2024, 2025. There may be another move peppered in there. Like, I don't know if you're planning on staying there or if you're going to stay with a sibling and then you're going to move again. And be cautious with like leases and things that you're signing, because you got Mars and Mercury there. So if you're feeling like somebody's pushing you to agree and sign something or to buy a car, and also be mindful with movement. Vehicles can be the 3rd house. Make sure that you're checking everything and be aware of like changes in weather. If you're moving to a place where there's going to be like different weather that you're not used to, sometimes some of those mutable signs in the 3rd house are visibility issues. And if you're wanting to like, you know, launch a website or an online business, or you want to start writing or blogging, it's really wonderful throughout this transit. Okay? Very exciting. It's going to be a fun year. It's just a lot of growth going on in your private life, in your personal life, you know? Good luck. Hopefully that's helpful. Let's see. So now we've got the other Christine. Christine Wall. Christine, what's your question? I need to know your question. I'll come back to you. I'll take Miss Dro City and then I'll come back for you, Christine Wall. Let's see. I'm sure I put you in here. No, maybe this is the point where I have to add people. Leticia, are you in here? Okay, I think this is the point where I have to add people. So you guys get a nice little break. So Christine, I need your info, please. Okay, cool. I need your birth information also, Christine. I don't see it. Okay, guys, give me 5. You guys can take a break, get a snack, do whatever you have to do. I have to put in all these charts really quick because we got all the people that kind of signed up after the fact. So I'm going to throw this together. Give me just a second. $12,389. Okay, got Joseph. Okay, Christine, did you send me the info? Can you post it for me in the chat again? And I will take a look because it's way back there. $12:49 p.m. Thank you. So this will be for Christine. And it's for Steven. December 12, 2003. 1:25 p.m. Thank you. I've got him in there. We've got Rachel Parks. We've got Brandon. We've got Jenna. Jenna, are you still here? Some of my friends are in the chat this evening. People who are used to watching me hang out and drink in bars in Friday nights, and now I'm doing weird shit on the internet. Oh man. Okay, so Jenna, you are July 30th, 87. Uh, 12:02 p.m. Got a couple people from Mass in the chat tonight. All right, so Jenna's in. Who else do we have? Bridget. Bridget, did you send me your info? Bridget and Luis, can you guys please send that to me again? Elsa. Let's see, Elsa, do I have you in here? Nope. December 2nd, 1970. All right, so we've got February 1st, 1962. All right, so we've got his chart in. Thank you guys for your patience. There's a number of people. Carol, I need your info. You guys gotta put that stuff in the memo. November 21st, 1986. (2:20 p.m.) Patrick, when I get to you, please let me know your question. Wexford, Ireland. All right. You will be last. You will be last. So you're gonna get to listen to everybody's everybody's reading. All right. Okay, so who did I miss here? Let's see, you guys in the chat. Okay, so we got Steven, Elsa, Bridget, Okay, so Bridget. And that was July 27, 77. 3:13 p.m. All right, got you. Thank you, Carol. Appreciate it. If you guys don't tell me what your question is, I'm just going to talk about the new moon. Just a heads up. 7/9/60. 9:53 p.m. Jamestown. I think we've just about got everybody. Let me just make sure. Carol, we got Elsa in there. Patrick, okay, there we go. Luis. There you are. Okay, so June 5th, 83. At 3:58 p.m. in Scotland. Cool. Got you. Thank you. Work life. Okay, cool. You might have to remind me as we get closer, but at least I know I have everybody now. We still have a number of people, so let's see. All right, so I think what we had next was Christine Wall, and then Dro City. Okay. And Christine, that was for your son, right? I want to make sure I have the right Christine because it's spelled differently. I just want to make sure. So Christine Wall, I think that was for Stephen. Yeah, Stephen Wall. Got it. It's spelled differently, so I was like, wait a second. There we go. There we go. Okay. So you said it's for your son. He's going into the Air Force training in March. Just curious about his chart. Got it. I'm going to go to 7-Eleven. Anybody want anything? A slushie. Okay, let's look at his chart and see what's going on. Aries rising. Jupiter is going to be crossing his ascendant. Does he want to be a pilot? With Jupiter on the ascendant, trying his ninth house sun and Pluto? Is that something he wants to do? Air Force, duh. Okay. But I mean like flying planes. Some people go into that and they're not necessarily like, they're not doing that. But he may actually really want to do that. Great transits for that because Jupiter is going to produce more courage, much more opportunity to be athletic, to get out there, travel, see the world. And it's going to flow very nicely with his sun and his Pluto. So I think that that's great. I think what's challenging is that transiting Pluto is in opposition to his moon, which means his mother is like, oh my goodness, you know, like you're growing up, you're flying the nest, you're leaving. or that, you know, you just have more general overall concern for him. Equally, the eclipse that's coming in April, it's going to square his moon, and it's going to be conjunct Jupiter. So it's good for him. Travel, expansion, going and being in other places, you know, learning something new. I think it's really great for his chart. Something else that's interesting is that Uranus is coming into conjunction with his North Node, so he's going to be feeling like he wants to make friends with new people. He wants to redefine himself. He's going to be feeling a little bit more willing to take chances. And transit Saturn's coming into conjunction with Uranus. So that kind of tells me that he's like really open to new friends in general anyway. You're going to see over the next year or two, Saturn's going to be in the 11th house of groups. And then Saturn next year is going to start dipping into the 12th house. So I wonder if maybe he gets like stationed in another place, or he has to go to a different country. So he may be where he's at for the better part of like a year. And then there can be a change. North Node eclipse is taking place in his first house, so it's going to focus on the body. It's also going to focus on, being brave, being courageous, being athletic. And I think the transits crossing his ascendant with Jupiter and Chiron is like focusing on issues relating to being more assertive, and how he's optimistic about new opportunities moving forward. Transit Neptune is going to conjunct his Mars. So one thing that I would say is that there is a sense of him possibly feeling like he's getting lost, being in a foreign place, or he feels like very lonely. He may also be working close to water. He may be like stationed places that are going to be in coastal cities, or maybe he's going to be like working or like actually living on ships where they are, like carrying planes. And as Neptune's getting really close to his Mars, I would also just give him this warning about like substances, drinking, anything like that. He needs to be really mindful of that over this next year or two, because there can be some problems there. Because Neptune dissolves, and being that it's going to conjunct his chart ruler, it can be also just really keeping an eye on his like mental health. That's really important. He's really strong though. Sun and Pluto and Sag in the 9th. Like he wants to travel. He's brave. He wants to go and have new experiences. He is wanting to kind of get outside of his comfort zone and go to other places. So in that sense, I think it's wonderful. But I would really keep an eye on, just how it's affecting him potentially being in like isolated places, right? Yeah, would just encourage him to just be careful with any drinking or substances or alcohol, because it's a very sensitive placement to have that conjunction in his 12th house. He may also be traveling to foreign places and like learning more about other cultures and spirituality and religion. And it might be something that's really positive for him. He becomes very inspired by that, because Neptune's also going to trine his moon. So he may also feel kind of like, oh, I like the culture, I like the spirituality, or I like visiting temples or churches, or in foreign places, and he might really like it. It might feel like home for him. And just getting out of home is like a big deal. I mean, I know he's a Sag, but he's got Saturn in conjunct his IC, and he's got his moon in the 4th house. So he's definitely really strongly attached to like home and family. And mom, so him branching out and doing something different is definitely going to be quite adventurous for him. But I like, Venus in his 10th house. I mean, he may end up meeting somebody through the military, because Venus rules his 7th house. And I really feel like him being a pilot or learning more about culture and travel is like so important for his astrology. So at the very least, even if he goes for a few years and he serves and then he comes back, he may come back and be like, that's what I want to do, is I want to be, a pilot, and I want to just like do this internationally from now on. Like that might be a thing. Or he'll come back and use the money that he gets from the experience in serving, and he'll possibly consider being a lawyer, or doing something that's within like the law related field. Maybe he'd be a cop or a detective. That's something he'd be really good at with Sun conjunct Pluto. Don't worry about him. He'll be fine. Saturn coming into conjunction with Uranus is just the preparation of getting him ready to go and like, be with a whole new group of people. I think he's going to make a lot of friends in the process. And I also feel like it's a time where it really is about him being on his own over the next like year or so with the North Node in his first house. So it's going to be a good opportunity for him to be able to kind of get out there and see who he is in new surroundings. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful. Kind of calm a concerned mama. Saturn, Moon, and Cancer in the 4th. Moon conjunct Ceres. Send him with lots of cookies. He's gonna miss mom's food. Especially home cooking, because you guys, he's from, you guys are from the Philippines, huh? So he's gonna miss mom's food, mom's like baked goods and things. You guys have really interesting desserts, so I would imagine he's gonna miss that. All right, let's look at Dro City, if she's not already at 7-Eleven, we'll see. Okay, so this will be for Leticia. Where is it? Where did I put you? There we go. December 39, 11:45 a.m. in Torrance. So you got a Pisces rising. Oh, new moon's on your ascendant. Okay. Sun in Sag, moon in Aquarius. I want to know how to work with the new moon in Pisces, especially with Saturn coming to my ascendant. I'm a cosmetic business owner, a lightweight YouTube influencer. Okay, lightweight. For starters, a new moon on an angle, especially on the ascendant, is pretty damn potent. So that's giving you the opportunity to completely reimagine and rework how you're presenting yourself, your personal goals, but especially your body. Pisces rising, they listen to their intuition. So you guys notice you kind of do things differently in terms of like timing and planning and knowing like when to start projects and launch things, and like you'll just take your time and then automatically you're like, no, now is the time to go. So it's about getting in touch with your natural rhythm. That's what the moon is about. And the moon is the ruler of your 5th house of creativity and also the 6th house of daily routine. So I think it's about you going like, how can I get into the flow of feeling good, feeling tapped in, and also knowing like that I'm navigating my schedule or I'm navigating my health or my creative projects by utilizing my intuition. Saturn on the ascendant is like a big turning point where there's like a huge like glow up, where there's like a focus on maturing and coming of age and being seen as somebody who's like a guide or a professional. So there can be about totally refining something about your image, right? So this can be about spiritual wisdom. This can be about your vision. Saturn is about what is thin. I hate to say that, but it is about thinning things down. So it can be about trimming the fat. Not literally losing weight unless that's something you want to do, but like think of like, what can I do without? What can I get rid of? So you might find that you're like wearing less accessories, you're wanting to do things that are a little bit more modern, you're wanting to do things that are a little bit more simple. What is it that is it Kourtney Kardashian? She goes, you know, like that effortless look, but many women know like for it to look effortless, whether it's like, you know, how you're designing your bedroom or your makeup. Usually a lot of work goes into something that's effortless. So I don't want you to think that necessarily less is more, but there can be a sense of like, okay, what can I do without? Certainly, you know, I would say like light weightlifting, yoga, hiking, meditation, these are all going to be your best friends. And I wonder if there's like some kind of like resistance training you can do with water. Like look into like a rowing machine or doing laps in a pool. Right? But I love Mexican food. You're cutting back something because, you know, it's on your ascendant. So it can also be about committing to making your dreams a reality. That's another way that I can look at it. A new moon on your ascendant is also like very fertile, and being that it's the ruler of your 5th house and it's also in a trine to your Jupiter, it can be ripe with new ideas, new opportunities for creative projects or even romance, but it can be also a precursor of pregnancy. Okay, so you're having Jupiter square Jupiter. You're getting ready to have Saturn trine Jupiter. So just as a warning, okay, that's what's coming in. That particular new moon, you want to look 6 months down the road when we come into what will be a full moon in Pisces. This will be in Virgo season. Just to get a vibe for what degree it's going to come in at, because I've looked at it, but I don't remember, to be honest with you. So looks like that full moon in Pisces. Oops. There we go. Oh, it's going to be conjunct Saturn. Hi. So I think it could be a period of being like, you know what? When it comes to meeting another person, like it might be that it's a definitive time where you're like, yeah, I don't know if this is a match. Right? I don't know if we're working out. You're going to have Venus retrograde over your south node. Equally, it could be a time where because of hard work and consistency and dedication to your routine, to your health, your mental health, your spiritual health, and your physical body, that you're really reaping the rewards. 7th house is your marketplace. It's how other people see you. So a full moon on your ascendant, bringing all the attention to your body with all the oppositions to your 7th house is drawing people in. It's like, yes, look at me, right? So if you're focusing on like growing your following, set intentions for this new moon to be like, okay, I'm going to come, you know, totally prepared. I'm going to get organized. I'm going to have a plan for dedicating so much time to my creative projects, really defining myself. So within 6 months time, I'm bringing more attention to me. Now, what's interesting is that this full moon, the full moon in 6 months, it's going to square your sun. So it's going to be like, okay, you know, by then you're going to have a consistent pattern. You're going to have something that you're working on all the time. And you need to make sure that, because there's probably going to be a lot of work on the agenda, that you're taking good care of your health. Remember, the sun is the ruler of the whole sign, 6th house for Pisces. So whether you're looking at the Venus retrograde over the summer, the Saturn on the ascendant, Saturn in the 1st house is going to be very similar to some extent to Saturn in the 6th. So you can feel more stiff, more rigid. There can be issues with health. There can be issues with the immune system. So I would say like spiritual health, emotional health, physical health, they're all connected, right? Mind, body, spirit. Finding ways to commit to staying connected to that is going to be the most important thing for this year. So use the new moon to set those intentions. I'm so glad to see that Pluto is off your Venus. I'm so glad to see that Saturn is coming out of your 12th house. To some extent, this next year is kind of nice. Like you get a little bit of a break here. You're going to start to see Saturn sextile Saturn. So it's really going to start to kind of support some of the stuff you've been working on since your Saturn return. You're getting crushed since 2017 when it was in Sagittarius. So Saturn on the ascendant is just a period of redefining yourself, right? So just focus on what you want that more refined, kind of mature, committed version of you is going to be. Saturn will retrograde several times throughout this year. It'll conjunct that degree, bringing you back to, nope, I said I was going to do this. Nope, I'm going to be on time. I'm committing to myself. Here's the boundary. Spiritual boundaries are a real thing, by the way, if you're a Pisces rising. You got to be getting those foot soaks and your pedicures, and you got to be doing your self scrubs and all that stuff, because you'll get all the stickies from other people, right? So I'm excited to see what happens while you have this nice slice of time before Saturn starts squaring your sun next year. And that can be health-related issues. So stay on top of your health is the best thing I can tell you. And you have the sun conjunct your midheaven, right? So you know a lot about perfection. You know how to teach people things. So whether it's beauty or it's fitness or it's wellness or whatever, or you're creating this lifestyle brand, like just keep showing up. Just keep showing up. Jupiter's trining your sun. Just keep showing up. Even if you're just like, hey, this is how I turned my life around, or this is how I learned this new beauty hack, or this is how I like teach people things. It's not about being perfect. It's about teaching through experience, right? Very exciting for you. I'm curious to see what happens, because you're gonna get a lot more visibility with Saturn on your ascendant. Maybe you'll get like a sports jacket. You'll be like business Letty, you know? Good luck. I'm excited to see what happens. We got Joseph, then Rachel, then Brandon. Joseph. Where are my J's? There we go. There we go. Joseph Okay. Let's see. January 25th, 2000. Ooh. All right. Joseph is 125, 2000, 12:49 p.m. New moon reading. Any health or relationship insight. Very single and recently got back into fitness. Okay. Well, Mars in retrograde on your ascendant. Good for you. Are you getting like those like arm workouts in? You're doing lots of like arm fitness, trying to, you know, get tickets to the gun show. Mars trying your sun. Mars has been trying Uranus. So really using fitness as a means of like feeling like in control and like also having an outlet. So that's wonderful. Health things. You know, you do have some eclipses taking place in your 6th house still, right? That's not going to be over here for a little bit. We have seen also the North Node has been in conjunction to Saturn. So I do feel like mental health affecting physical health, right? Especially Venus rules your 6th house of health and fitness, right? And Jupiter's coming in for a trine with your Venus. So yes, that is going to be happening here soon. That's going to expand your health in general. I'd pay attention to the eclipse right around the 19th to 20th of April. There's going to be a 29-degree eclipse in Aries. It's going to oppose your 6th house cusp. With 29 degree of Libra on your 6th house, this makes me feel like it's possible you're cruising for some like pulling a back muscle, having some things going on with the lower back type of vibe, some balance issues, right? This is also dietary stuff in regards to like sugar. That eclipse is going to be really close to your Jupiter. And Jupiter is the ruler of your 11th house. I feel like you're going to be joining with other fitness groups. Like you're going to join groups or you're going to be working out with friends. That's what the eclipse will bring you. And Saturn's been in all of these planets in the 10th house. So I like that you're focusing on fitness and weight and focus as a means to deal with some of this energy. When the South Node gets out of your 6th house, I would imagine like health stuff gets a little bit easier. Now, it won't be this year, but it'll be next year that Saturn will come into conjunction with your Mars. And that can indicate that there is just some shifts going on in regards to health and wellness in general. You know, Scorpio is your whole sign 6th house ruler. So I'd focus more on like what's going on with health next year, not overdoing it. I wonder if you're going to try to do some competitive stuff. Has that been something you've been thinking about? You know, Pluto's getting close to your sun. I could see you being really focused on business or really focused on just being seen, right? Relationship stuff though, an eclipse on your Jupiter and the North Node coming into conjunction with your Jupiter, that all seems to be screaming new potential relationship stuff. Look for that pretty much mid-April. You know, mid-April until the North Node is going to be conjunct your Jupiter. So that'll be mid-April of this year, 2023, until the North Node comes out in conjunction with Jupiter. So mid-April through October. You need a strong Jupiter transit for relationship stuff to come in. So Jupiter return, North Node on your Jupiter, pretty much spring all the way into the fall. That's going to happen. Jupiter's going to hit Saturn. So I wonder if this is going to be about kind of keeping relationship stuff more private in the fall or reevaluating relationships, right? Equally, we do see right now that Saturn is sextiling your natal Jupiter. So this is about friends, socializing, like being around other people. Like that's really what's going to expand the likelihood of meeting others. And if your 7th house lord is in the 11th, you're going to meet somebody at a party. You're going to meet them when you're out with friends. You're going to meet them when you're going and working out. Right? But you got Venus in Capricorn. You got Venus in the 8th. So there is a sense of sometimes Venus in the 8th, meeting someone when you're going through a transformation. Capricorn, with work, right? With finances. You might meet somebody right when they're coming out of a relationship or vice versa. And you got Pluto in your, right along your descendant. So I would imagine the Mars retrograde's been kind of rocky, huh? You've been like, I want relationships, but I end up with people or I connect to people that are too intense or they're too pushy or they're toxic. Like there's something that's been going on with Mars opposed your natal Pluto square Mars, and you've been focusing more on your goals and socializing with other people. It just hasn't quite been the time, right? But April on, yes, I do see opportunities there. Health-wise, just watch that eclipse that's coming in Scorpio, okay? There's going to be an eclipse the beginning of May. That will be in Scorpio. I believe it's in Scorpio. I should know this. Yeah, it's going to be in Scorpio. Where is it? There we go. So the eclipse on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, eclipse in your 6th house. The moon in Scorpio is not happy. An eclipse in Scorpio is challenging, ruled by Mars, okay, and Pluto. So it's going to be trining Mars. So maybe you're spending a little bit more money on health and fitness and food. That's the feeling that I'm getting. But by sign, it does square Pluto, right? So just be mindful of like what courses, what classes you're taking, like who you're signing up to like train with, like those things can come up and can be a little iffy. But health issues can happen with transits in the natal 6th house. And it's right when the South Node is getting ready to leave. So you're in the clear, you know, May through July, I would still watch health stuff. But for the most part, you're good after that. And you've got transiting Pluto coming in conjunction with your South Node. With your South Node. And also with Neptune. You know what this means? Over the next few years, you're going to become very interested in like detoxing, cleansing, working with people and like helping them bounce back after sobriety, or the connection between fitness and like spiritual practice. You might become really interested in like Eastern modalities and learning more about how to heal through like dietary things, right? And you got Saturn square the node. So it tells me that a lot of your Saturn return is going to be about learning about this stuff. I wonder if you're going to want to learn more about like literally food and fitness, or like herbalism, because you have Saturn in the 12th in Taurus. Does that interest you? Sun conjunct Neptune. So you are kind of spiritual and otherworldly. All that Aquarius too. Hold on, guys. Sorry, my computer is going to die. Don't worry about the single stuff. An eclipse on your Jupiter is going to bring that up. You just got to go to those parties, you know? There's going to be parties. There's going to be invitations. You're going to hear from people. They're going to be like, come out and do something. And like all that Saturn that's been in your 10th house, I feel like you've been working on yourself a lot. And there's like really a need to like just actually go out, have fun, like enjoy yourself. Be around other people, right? It's okay to have a bit of a break. That's going to be the lesson for you here. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Joseph. We've got Rachel. Rachel Parks. There we go, Rachel. That's right, there's going to be an eclipse around your birthday, Rachel. What's up, Bree? Hey, Stephanie. Let's see what she says. Rachel says, what do you see for this new moon? It's in my 6th house Placidus, 7th house whole sign. How do you read that? Can you touch on my 8th degree ascendant and descendant? Oh, last time we talked about this. 12:30 Eureka. I don't know why it's coming up at that time. Okay, last time you had it different. Okay, so your ascendant is 8 degrees, basically. So it's going to be a Scorpio degree. Let me start there. I don't want to change this because it's going to mess up the screen. But okay, 8 degrees rising. So Virgo is about organization. It's about assessing. It's about communication. It's about health. It's about perfection and tweaking things. If you have it in an 8, it means that it's about assessing your intuition or what needs to be changed. Also listening to anything in regards to things that are going to help you change and transform habits and patterns, right? So it's like a Scorpio degree that is mixed with Virgo. 8s are also about change, transformation, regeneration, the body changing a lot over time, especially after traumatic events or after pregnancy. And that health can change as a result of some of these things as well. Okay, so shifting more into the new moon. So the new moon is going to be in your Placidus 6th, but you're a Virgo rising, so you're like, oh, is it about my relationships? Sure. I see this more as clearing out relationships because it's 12th to the 7th. I think this is about relationship with coworkers, relationship with your schedule and your day-to-day routines. I love that it trines your Pluto. Like, I really like that. I also love that it squares your nodes, because when you have squares to the nodes, it's like this thing has to change. So personally, I know you're a Virgo rising, but you might go on like a cleaning bender, like big time, where it's like, I gotta change, we gotta move things. Like, I'm focusing on this and focusing on that. And with this, with the new moon trine Pluto in your second house, cleaning up the house, cleaning up your diet, cleaning up your emotional habits, cleaning up anything in regards to your workspace, right? Square to the nodes is like, gotta work through this crisis, clean something out, you know? So it can be relationship clearing. Hi, Venus at 29 degrees in your 7th house. But it can also be that kind of turning point where like possibly there's like this shift that's going to be going on where you're like, I realize that I'm getting on this like schedule and this consistent kind of flow where I'm living better, eating better, feeling better. I've got my routine set up and like people aren't going to interfere with that. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. Now you're going to get another new moon in your 7th. Okay. That'll be the next new moon in Pisces, in Aries. There's going to be 2 new moons in Aries, guys. There's going to be one at 0 degrees, one at 29 degrees, and that one will be an eclipse. So we're going to have what we call a dark moon. So it's like a blue moon, but it's for black moons, right? Dark moons, whatever. So yeah, basically wherever Aries is in your chart, you're going to have double the amount of energy to put into it. And by Placidus standards, that's going to be in your 7th house, right? So that one's going to be really interesting because it's going to in conjunct your Pluto. But for now, this is more of the cleaning, clearing out, kind of getting your act together vibe. And because it squares the nodes, don't be surprised if like there's a change in your work schedule, if there's like a change in how you're working. It can even prompt bringing in a new job. I mean, I saw recently you were talking about how you were like, you know, like I quit my job. So if you're looking for a new job or if you're looking to kind of change your schedule, right? This would be a good new moon for it. It's going to trine Pluto where you're like, I am really focusing on organizing my time. I'm really focusing on organizing my my finances because it's going to trine Pluto in your 2nd house. But also bringing people in who you can help, who you can be of service to. So the 6th house is the workspace. So I feel like this is going to be really good. And if you're in between work or if you're, you know, planning on taking a new position or maybe you've already found something, I don't know. This can be about being like, okay, I'm going to adapt to a new schedule. But if you're in between jobs, you're not working yet, this is like you going like, okay, I'm going to get everything in order before I start this new job. And so maybe it's a time where you catch a breather and you're like, I need to develop a schedule or a routine for me before I get into, you know, what's going to be changing or what's going to be shifting moving forward. More so opportunity like relationship stuff next month, though. It'll be next month. And I think, you know, a lot of Virgo risings, they kind of got gypped. I don't know if there's any other Virgo risings here, but Venus conjunct Neptune has not had the same sweetness that most people would assume, right? It's been in a square to Mars. In your chart, especially Rachel, it's in a square to your moon. So there's a lot of like, who am I partnering with? Like, you know, who's got my back? So really reassessing relationships and making better decisions about where you're going to be investing your time and your energy when it comes to who you're partnering with, who you're working with, right? So that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. Hold off on the relationship intentions until the first new moon in Aries. That one's going to pack a punch. And girl, you got Jupiter coming in conjunction with your Venus. It's going to be in May. But Jupiter is the traditional lord of your 7th. So through traveling, training, getting out of town, connecting with somebody in another city, something like that, right around May, somebody else is going to pop in, right? And I'm curious like who that's going to be right around the end of May, right as Saturn's coming into Pisces. Getting close to your 7th house. And that's going to really, I think, also more so define, right? Like, okay, I want this committed relationship. Where are things going? And if you've lived with somebody, been married, or had kids with somebody already, you've already burned your 7th house. So then we move to the 9th house, which would be the next significant partner. So here comes Uranus, here comes Jupiter, Jupiter's going to sit on your sun. I think you're going to meet someone. I really do. And I think they're going to be very different. And I think that they're going to be possibly somebody who's more into knowledge and art and information. And they might be like somebody who works at a university. They might be somebody who, you know, teaches something about gardening or cooking, you know. But like the fact that the sun is the 12th house lord, they can also be a foreigner. So you'll end up meeting somebody else with this transit. So this is probably the new moon, that feeling of like, we're out with the old and with the new, you know? Let me know. What's up, Bree? Thank you, I appreciate it. Hi, Leah. Sometimes people pop in, they're like, oh, she's live. I only do the lives on the weekends. Rachel, no more Pajama Man. The Pajama Man saga continues. Okay, we've got Brandon, Jenna, Bridget, Luis, you guys are on deck. Where is Brandon? Let's see here. I know I've got you here somewhere. Where are you? Where are you? I know I had you here at one point. Maybe I need to re-add you. I feel crazy. Okay, let me add you really quick. I could have sworn I had you in here. June 3rd, 97. $3:55 a.m. There we go. Now we've got you in here. Okay, Brandon says, upcoming important transits I should look out for, especially the Pluto conjunct my Neptune. Anything else notable you see? I got you. Forgot to add in the question, is there a potential for me to be physical performer, dancing, etc., entertainer of some sort? Natally or transit? Cool. Hey, Bree. You can click below where it says show more. You go to my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com and you can book a reading with me if you want a reading. I do them live on Zoom or I offer reports. Okay, so Brandon wants to know, oh, hello transits. Brandon wants to know what's going on. Is there anything he needs to be aware of? You mentioned the Pluto conjunct Neptune transit. Oh, that's fun at 29 degrees. The moon's there right now. Did you plan this reading knowing that the moon was going to be conjunct Neptune and Pluto? That's cool. Well, first of all, Neptune is spiritual. It's creative. It can be very much about, especially in Capricorn, making creative or spiritual or expressive things real, right? So you've got Pluto coming into conjunction with that, which represents 8th house, other people's money and resources. So you're wanting to change and transform something about who you are out in the world. Okay, so 29 degrees is an anaretic degree. I'm gonna do a video on this on Tuesday. I'm gonna talk about Saturn, Pluto hitting 29 degrees. I'll talk a little bit about Venus having hit it too, but essentially like this is like the now or never kind of moment. So Pluto coming into conjunction, conjunctions are the strongest aspect you can make, is kind of like you being obsessed with this idea of like what is creative and fun and whimsical and spiritual, and it's like, it's very psychic. 29 degrees of Capricorn is super, super psychic, right? So that's really important, especially as the nodes in July are going to move to square Pluto. So it's basically going to be like, yo, it's really time to just totally, really, you know, go all in with the creative, whimsical, this, that, and the other, right? At the same time, You have transits Neptune on your south node. So you could like run away and join the circus with this placement. You could also like decide that you're going to go and run off and, you know, join like a monastery and be with like a bunch of monks and be in a spiritual retreat center. I mean, there's some wild stuff that can happen with both of these Neptune transits. But I think the transits, the node squaring Pluto is really saying you have to believe in your dream or your vision for what you're hoping to accomplish. Saturn rules your 10th, it's in the 12th. It means you're going to figure out and define this even more with some kind of spiritual training. It might be in shamanism as you're getting closer to 30. It can be about working with the body. I have seen people who want to do like performing type things. The performer is a Leo degree. So you have 29 degrees Neptune. How do you want to perform? Spiritual dance, stuff that's going to be more creative? Is it going to be about working in mysticism and in spirituality? I mean, you got all the placements for it. Somebody once told me, if you have a really strong Saturn signature, like if you've got a lot of planets in the 10th house, or if you got a lot of Capricorn or a lot of Aquarius, 10th, 11th house placements, there's a lot of like waiting to grow up. It's a lot of like, okay, I just want to get this like over with because I know that I have to do all these things, but the most challenging thing is time. And so one thing I would say is with the transits of, you know, Pluto on your Neptune, Pluto's gone through your 10th house, Saturn's gone through your personal transits. It's trying to teach you that you can't just kind of pass go and collect $200 and like cross the finish line. Like there are life things you have to do to kind of have some of these initiations before you have all of the wisdom. So go play. Like if you really want to focus on designing or dancing or creating or performing, like go and do that right now. Get fully obsessed with that while Pluto's on your natal Neptune. But be mindful at the same time with Neptune on the south node that there can be a sense of getting lost and things being distorted and like lost in reality, right? But I'm confident that the node square Pluto is going to help you. I'm also looking at Uranus conjunct your moon, and you're going to feel really restless and you're going to want to move, and your intuition is going to be super, super strong. Then Uranus is going to hit your Mercury, where you're going to be like, now I realize what my purpose is and I'm changing my mind again, right? A lot of outer planet transits. I will say this. 8 degrees of Aquarius is generally about wealth. Wealth of knowledge is one way to look at it. You have your Uranus there. Wealth in regards to friends and groups and feeling recognized by others. So I'm curious what happens in about, 10 years when Pluto comes into conjunction with that, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I have all this recognition. I've built this group or this team or this, you know, like center or like whatever it is that you create with other people. That's going to end up being something that's going to bring you a great deal of power throughout that transit. So I'd be more consumed with how you're building and growing with other people, knowing that that's going to be coming, right? But yeah, creativity, being a star, having talent, that's very 29 degrees. So I think it can be about your vision, bringing your vision out in front and center in the world, or your creative vision to light in terms of your business. What else did you ask me? That's pretty much it. The other thing is, keep in mind that transit Neptune is still in opposition to your Mars, so there's lots of questions about what is possible. And you'll know more in 2 years when Saturn conjuncts Neptune, right before your Saturn return, and it opposes your Mars, if what you've been focusing on or working on is like sustainable and if it's actually going to work, right? And because you have Saturn in the 12th house and Saturn rules your career, it indicates that you may completely in 2 years' time rearrange yourself and be like, oh, I'm doing something different. You know, I want to do this new thing. I want to, you know, like, I want to rebrand. But next year, as the North Node conjuncts Saturn, I think that especially if you want to do performing or like body work, it's a great time to really start seriously studying that. Like you can do acting with this. You could be in front of the camera or behind the camera. And in many ways, with Neptune in the 10th and Saturn in the 12th, I wonder if this is about learning about documenting and taking photos and videos and other things, right? That you can use to like really kind of show off everything, creating a reel or, you know, learning how to edit things. That might be one of your talents as well. Very, very interesting some of the transits that you're having related to dancing in a spiritual sense. Yeah, no, to me it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense to me. And I think Neptune has been in opposition to your Mars, so you're kind of just like dancing it out, you know? You're getting it all out of your system. It's your form of like healing. But as, you know, you're seeing more in Pisces, it's also going to be about, I would go and look more into like shamanic dance and like, you know, ritual stuff and things that you're doing where you're like going into like other planes and other places. I mean, that might be a good way to utilize it because it can be so hard to grasp anything in Pisces. And that Saturn in Aries in the 12th house is like very spiritual warrior vibes. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Good luck on all your dancing. All your dancing. And go and learn about degree theory, the 29 degrees, and what like Nicola has said in the past about that. Yeah, it's about clairvoyance and psychics, by the way, right? So like, so I named my business after that degree in the Sabian symbols, and we're gonna see more and more people are psychically waking up with some of the Pluto stuff that's going on, and also with the node square Pluto. I wonder if there's gonna be like a war on psychics. I know I sound crazy saying that. I mean, the government's already using them, you know? All right, let's look at Jenna's chart. So we've got Jenna, July 30th. Libra rising. Libra rising. Pluto's trying your moon. Saturn's leaving your 4th house, coming into your 5th house. North node is going to conjunct your Jupiter. Holy cow, Jenna! There's a lot changing here. I don't even know where to begin. For starters, Saturn's finally leaving your 4th house. So the heaviness of like home and family responsibilities, stuff that's gone on with your parents, you know, taking care of mom, all of those things, like that's gonna ease up. It's been like really real in this chart for the last 2 years. You do have Saturn going into your 5th house. It's all going to be about making more time for things that make you happy, just being more committed to finding like true love and consistency in relationships. And Saturn's going to hit Juno, your planet of marriage. So you're looking for a husband, all right? 2, you have Jupiter that in April and May is going to go into your 7th house of relationships. So you're looking for someone. Somebody is going to come in very quickly and very abruptly. There will be an eclipse right around April 19th, 20th on your Jupiter in your 7th house. Okay? And then you're going to see that the North node is going to hit your Jupiter, and that is going to be in July. April through July, like it's on like Donkey Kong, right? Here's the colorful thing. At the same time that all of this is happening, you are also going to have Pluto coming into an opposition with your Venus. That makes me feel like you're going, I need a definitive change in regards to my home life and my work life. That might also materialize as having some challenges with women at work and feeling very emotionally threatened. Likely there might be increases also in your rent and you're like, oh my God, this is becoming a nightmare, or you're just feeling like there's some challenges like in the neighborhood that you're living in. Because Venus rules your body, I would also say just be really mindful, like when you're coming and going from your apartment. I'm not saying this to scare you, but like there can be some riffraff, you know. Pluto can sometimes be relating to crime, and Venus can be about like women. So I would say like make sure everything's locked, everything's good, your car's locked, it's in a secure location. But you just might notice that there's just like an uptick of some tension that's going on like within either the home zone or anything in regards to family. You know, you have Pluto that's going to oppose your Venus and square Jupiter. So there's also this feeling of being like, I really have to let old relationships go, old patterns in relationships go. I can't think about old people. They can't come back any longer. Jupiter in the 7th house can bring foreigners in, and it can bring people in very quickly, which could prompt you to kind of be like, I'm finally moving out of the past. I'm not going to fixate on old partners, right? Jupiter is also trining your sun right now and also your Mars. Health and fitness seem to be a huge theme the next 2 or 3 months. Just really focusing on work, grinding it out, your daily routine, being organized, but also feeling like you're making time to have an outlet to be active. And so that's a good transit for you. I think that you're going to see that really all the way up until about April. Jupiter in opposition to your moon, planets in opposition to your moon. I also feel like this is about getting into a new routine for you and not feeling like you have to take care of other people, right? I'm very excited to see the North Node and Jupiter on, and the Jupiter return all taking place at the same time. Like there's gonna be like probably just like a really sexy athletic man that's gonna show up in your life. And it may be somebody that you meet out of the blue. Pay attention to these dates. So this is going to be when you have, let's see, transit. Juno is going to be conjunct your Jupiter at 29 degrees and Venus is on your descendant. So right around March 10th through about mid-March. And then when you have a solar eclipse at 20 degrees, like I said, it's around April 19th, April 20th. But mid-April on, that's another wave of when other people can kind of like show up. 7th house is also like, you know, partnerships, business partnerships, people who can be counselors, therapists, your astrologer, whatever, people that you kind of want to connect with who are going to give you information and support you. You can just feel like things are picking up very quickly. What you're going to hear for Leo horoscopes as well is going to be like, do you have the opportunity to travel? Do you have the opportunity to train, to learn something new? Like those will also open, those things will open doors to making it possible for you to be able to meet people. I'm really curious to see what happens when Saturn retrogrades over your Juno, because you're having some significant Juno transits this year, which seem to suggest that you're looking for a commitment. And you'll know more about where things stand right around August, mid-August. And Venus will go retrograde in your 10th house. So you're changing something about your identity out in the world and being like, yeah, I identify as being in a relationship and partnering with people in general. The Super Bowl of my life was coming 2024. Yeah, but you're going to end up meeting somebody through this transit. The one thing I would say is do not let distance be a limitation. You know, I've seen a lot of Libra risings and a lot of Scorpio risings meeting people in other places. And being that I'm watching Jupiter trine your Mars, you're going to have the opportunity to meet people, but it can be people who are in other places. And this is kind of outside of the realm of like relationship stuff, but you have a lot of job stuff changing for you in August. Venus will retrograde over your Mars and over your Sun. And this is positive because it's more opportunities. You're collaborating with people who are going to give you more opportunities work-wise. But I think that you're identifying as, hi, I'm in a relationship right around the end of summer, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you, Jenna. Keep me updated. I want to hear what happens. I want to hear what happens. Think back to 12 years ago when you had your Jupiter return. So what was that? It was, what, 2011? What happened around that time? That was the last time you had this Jupiter return. So it's going to bring somebody. And you have Jupiter at 29 degrees. And Pluto's squaring. Oh. And you're going to probably meet a lot of guys that are like, I just moved here. And you're going to be like, what? Or, you know, you're meeting them right when they're moving. You moved to LA. So sometime that year, you should have met someone. All right, we've got Bridget. Thank you for your patience. We're getting down to the last couple people. Bridget, Luis, Elsa, Carol, Patrick. Here we go. Oh my God, it was the Australian guy. That's right. Very Jupiter. So you'll meet someone else that's similar. Hopefully not crazy and Australian, but you know what I'm saying. Usually the attractive ones are the crazy ones, unfortunately. To have a Aries descendant, people don't understand. Libra risings are so sweet, but we bring in the most psychotic people. Okay, so we've got Bridget. I know that you sent me your info and you told me what your question was. So now I gotta scroll up here. Give me 1 second. Okay, Bridget says, hi. July 27th, 77 through 13 p.m. Cool. I think I'm leaving my midlife crisis. Oh, feeling like a plastic bag blowing in the wind. Would love clarity on money and need some joy, please and thank you. Well, I hope you're leaving your midlife crisis too. Wowzers. So, believe it or not, your midlife crisis transit has kind of happened, okay? It's been going on the last couple years. Uranus opposed Uranus. Scorpio rising, all right? So it doesn't matter if you're in your mid-40s or if you're 12 or if you're 85, okay? If you're a Scorpio rising, you've been getting your butt kicked because you've had Saturn going through the most southern part of your chart. In your case, okay, because you're kind of like that mid-range Scorpio rising, you're getting in the third decan. Saturn is just now entering into your fourth house. So I'm not saying this to be ominous. I'm not saying this to be upsetting. I'm just going to keep it real. Between having had Saturn oppose Saturn this last year, which you feel restrictions and limitation, especially in terms of your belief and philosophy and inhibiting the ability to travel or communicate effectively. Saturn square your ascendant, you feel run down, and you can be feeling effects of aging, or you're just, kind of dealing with some health stuff. And Saturn square your descendant, where it's limiting your ability to connect with other people, this has been challenging. You've basically had a fixed square in your chart for the last year and a half. 2, Saturn's now coming into conjunction with the IC, all right? So essentially the IC at 28 degrees of Aquarius, especially the last 2 or 3 days, it feels pretty rough. And, the IC is the most sensitive part of the chart. So it deals with the home, the family, the private life, but there's this feeling of like, oh, I'm alone, and like it really feels like that. It's like throwing an anchor overboard. Saturn's going to move off of this pretty quickly, okay? But the thing is that Saturn will be in your, natal, it's going to be in your natal fourth house for the next, 3 years. So nothing is going to really change here. You're going to see that that's going to continue to stay. Family stuff, domestic stuff, home stuff, buying homes, developing things, taking care of parents, the list goes on. You're going to have it for a little bit longer, but at least it's going to be in a water sign. So it's trining your natal Uranus. It's helping you make some of these shifts, and you're adapting to change and transformation. Equally, you have had Mars, which is your chart ruler, retrograde from the end of October all the way till about early January. And it went through all your personal planets. So it's a lot of like changing and transforming the way that you look at your relationship with other people, other people's resources, karmic love situations, and a big back and forth about 8th house topics. So here you have Venus and Jupiter. So was there challenges in intimacy and relationships? Was there some sense of you having to pay off things or owing people money or dealing with a death or an estate issue, dealing with tax issues? Any of these things can come up. Go back to like 1993. That's what I want you to reflect on. All right. So you were what, like 23, 24? This is the last time that you had Saturn through this part of your chart. So I'm assuming this is when it was like having to kind of focus on taking care of yourself, being an adult, paying the bills, things like that. And maybe kind of your first run at being like, wow, growing up sucks. It's for suckers. And realizing how challenging it is. It doesn't matter if you're in a relationship and you're super happy or, you're single. It does not matter. You feel that heaviness and that sense of alone time. And Saturn really wants you to be by yourself because it wants you to focus on where are you needing to kind of uproot everything in regards to your home life and your private life to kind of restructure the foundation, right, of that house. Because this is the base of your natal chart. When we have this, usually we're like feeling like work opportunities are out of reach, that nothing's working, that we're never going to get anywhere, when in reality it's saying, no, focus on the home, right? And so it's kind of designed that way. Saturn's trine your Venus still and Jupiter, so that's nice. Saturn's also, like I said, coming into a trine with Uranus. So you're going to embrace some of the changes over this next year, and I think you're going to make peace with it. Saturn will go through your 4th house and square your natal Mars. So I think that you're going to see that there can be some domestic harmony issues within the home or with partners or relationships that will come up, okay? Or meeting people in other places. And then, you know, Saturn is now coming into an opposition with Mercury. So Mercury in Leo in the 10th house says, I want praise, I want to be seen, I want people to hear me. And Saturn's like, no. So you're thinking about how you can work on your voice and define yourself more creatively. Okay, so that's going to break for you in March. And then we have Uranus coming into your 7th house. So, you know, depends on where you're at on this end of the spectrum. If you're a single Scorpio rising with this transit, somebody can just show up out of the blue and turn your whole life upside down in like the best ways. If you are in a relationship, there can be some issues with a relationship with like somebody not feeling like they want to stay in the house, or they're getting anxious and they want to go other places, or they want to relocate. Sometimes people from the past can come back, so just be forewarned, because Uranus rules your 4th house of the past. But Uranus going into your 7th house at a 20, I have a hunch you're probably going to meet a Scorpio. It could be a Taurus, but you're probably going to meet a Scorpio, or just somebody who's very different and unusual, and they just show up very quickly, right? And when that happens, it's also seeding Jupiter going there next year. So like, I look at this and I'm like, dude, you're going to be so deep in a relationship next year that it's not going to be that the relationship is the problem. It's going to be, well, what needs to change within the home life? You know, who's moving for who? Oh, and then we have Pluto coming into an opposition with the sun. So that's talking about being in a situation where you're like, okay, I want to be there, but, you know, I'm here, right? Some distance issues. Not many people realize Pluto is just coming in where Saturn has been for the last few years. You guys remember 2020 when Saturn went in and out of Aquarius? Okay, well, here comes Pluto. It's the same shit. It's like whatever you were feeling that you were holding back and changing in 2020, like here comes Pluto, and he's like, oh, well, now we have to do it. Okay. You know, and like many people, especially with fixed signs, are going to be like, I'm over this. So I'm looking at Pluto in opposition to your sun, the node's square. If you're in an unhappy relationship, it's got to go. Like, it's not gonna, the transits are not gonna let somebody stay consistently in your life because it's trying to seed a new relationship, especially when Jupiter comes in conjunction with Mars next year. You'll be in a new relationship with someone. So yeah, exciting people can kind of show up right around these transits. So it wasn't your midlife crisis. You just got screwed. You have planets that are all within the late degrees of the fixed sign. So you got hit all over the place, you know? So it's gonna ease up in that sense. But be mindful that Saturn in the 4th house, you need boundaries with your emotions, you need boundaries with your family, with your home. Pay attention to plumbing issues, water issues. That can be a thing with Saturn in the 4th, because you got Saturn and Neptune there. So if there's water leaks or foundational issues or things going on with like extreme weather and stuff that's impacting the home, you got to take that seriously. Things are going to get easier just when Saturn gets into Pisces. So you'll be feeling a little bit better here by about April, May, right when planets are going into your 7th house and other people show up. It's been my experience when you have Saturn in the 4th and squares to the 7th that relationships go to shit or they just don't happen. Because it wants you to be alone and it wants you to deal with your home and your emotional stuff. And when you work through that, somebody else appears, right? Trust me, I have almost everybody in my life who's either in my family for the most part, or a really good friend, or my husband. They're all Scorpio risings. And I'm like watching the Saturn transit and I'm just reminding myself, like, be patient with these people. Remember how difficult it was when you went through this. Like, you know, don't be a shit disturber. And also, I'm aware that as they're going through these transits, they can feel really lonely. So you need people in your life that are gonna like be there, you know, that are gonna like show up and be like, hey, how's it going? You need anything? Because you need more emotional, you need more support than usual, you know? Hopefully that's helpful, Bridget. Good luck. We've got Luis, the Cosmic Dancer. I saw that and I thought it was Ange Stoic. You guys know who that is? He writes like the Cosmic Bus and all that stuff, but I think he's like the Cosmic something. I don't know. He's an astrologer. But I was like, is that is that Ange? But no, it was you, Luis, which is okay. I'm okay with that. But I was kind of like, huh, I wonder if it's that person. Okay, so let's look at Luis's question. Let's see, it was here. It was here somewhere. Where is it? There we go. Luis here, June 5th, 83. Oh, so you have the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Okay, outlook on work and life, please. Thank you. Got it. Okay. Libra Rising Club, your question is about work and that outlook. Holy cow, Pluto in opposition to your Venus. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Pluto is in opposition to your Venus right when the moon is conjuncting. Happy moon Pluto conjunction, everybody. Can you guys feel the intensity? All right, so here's the deal. You're Libra rising, Venus rules your chart. You got Venus in Cancer in the 10th house, which is, I mean, that's the millionaire degree, by the way. That is an amazing degree to have. When outer planets come to aspect this in a progression or through a Jupiter transit or a conjunction, you're going to see that unfold in like the most amazing way ever. Okay. But right now, Pluto is in your 4th house of Capricorn. It's opposing your Venus. So what's going on? What's ending? Are you like, oh, I have to change my career. My career is over. Is there so much stuff going on for with your personal life and with your home and your family that you're feeling like something's getting blown up? Okay, Pluto rules your money and your resources, and it's in opposition to Venus. So it tells me that there's something that's not meshing about what you're doing work-wise or your work schedule, your responsibility out in the world, and your emotions and your feelings and what's going on for you within your private life. Like it's not meshing. So I want you to think about 2020, right? Saturn was in opposition to your Venus, where it was like home and family, emotions, building that private focus, getting everything kind of situated. And it was possibly making you feel like some of your goals were thwarted. And now here's Pluto. Just hear me out on this. 29 degrees is not something you want to screw with because it will make change happen. It does tell me that there can be this feeling of like needing more happiness and joy and private life to be developed, and that you're moving away from old kind of status quo in your life. You were also born with Pluto and Saturn in a square to your Venus. My goodness. So excellent mediator, really good at giving advice, right? Not so good at taking it. I know what that's like. So right now you got Pluto in opposition to Venus in a landlock, creating a a cardinal T-square with Pluto and Saturn. My dear, this is saying something has to change. Something has to change. The focal point is Pluto and Saturn on your ascendant, about your tendency to be really hard on yourself, or to be restricted or limited or not kind to yourself or not flexible. Equally, this can be bringing up back issues with your kidneys, issues with sugars, things like that. Be very careful with health-related things here. I'm watching Jupiter, okay? Jupiter is going to come in, it's going to hit 29 degrees, and we're going to see an eclipse there. So April through May, this chart is on fire, which is basically saying it's bringing you into all of these cardinal squares. If you have cardinal planets in angular houses, are you like me? Like, do you have trouble sitting still? Like, do you always have to be working and doing something? Because you're going to see that all of the energy is now shifting to your 7th house, and all the energy is now shifting to your 4th house. So it's saying get active when it comes to home and family and your emotions and what you're building or breaking down. Get active when it comes to relationships and who you're partnering with out in the world. It's wonderful for relationships. I know that you're asking more about like business and stuff. So if you're asking about like, you know, outlook on work, okay, it'll bring more clients. Sure. Okay, it's going to bring more, you know, attention to what you're doing out in the world. Great. But at what cost, right? As the South Node swings through Saturn and Pluto in your 1st house, you need to be very careful with your body, very careful with overworking, very careful with overextending yourself and being a people pleaser. That's going to be a thing that's going to come up. And if you don't believe me, just watch. Just watch. Your life is going to get so extra, like extra with this eclipse. at 29 degrees. Like I said, it's going to light your chart up like a Christmas tree. So this year, if you are into astrology, you need to be listening to the lunar transits. You need to know when the moon is in the last degrees of Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, and Aries, because things are going to get active, and crosses in the angular houses make things happen. You change, home change, relationships, career changes. And with the North Node in your 7th, it's about partnerships. So business partnerships, clients, bringing more people in, more recognition, great. But it's going to square Pluto and a bunch of stuff in your 4th house, and it makes me feel like it can be very disruptive with home, with family. But there's so much growth and opportunity for what's going on with relationships. So I think it's a good time to like partner with people out in the world, take on potential business partnerships, be open to taking on new clients, collaborating with others, sharing and speaking your mind with other people. I'm a Libra rising too. Jupiter rules my 3rd house. So I'm looking forward to these transits because I feel like it's going to give me the opportunity to like be on other people's channels and like, you know, talk about stuff on podcasts and like, you know, talk about things on people's blogs and just collaborate with other people and kind of get my voice out there. So I see some similar stuff for you, but I think that you may resist some of this stuff, right? Because it's going to be in opposition to Pluto and Saturn. And you're going to have people that are going to be telling you, you're too rigid, open up, don't be so hard on yourself. Like, I think that even though you're really great at giving advice and navigating things for people, like 7th house tells me you need an astrologer or a counselor, or you need somebody who's going to be like a life coach. Like you need somebody with Aries energy who's going to come in and kind of slap you around a little bit and be like, stop putting other people first, you know, or they're going to tell you that you have to be focusing on creating this new image that's more Aries. It's strong. It's going to be very courageous. It's going to be independent. It's not so people pleasing. That's what's going to help you navigate Pluto in opposition to Venus, right? So something's changing about what you thought you were going to be out in the world to better kind of support what you're becoming in your private life, and you have people who are going to help you through that process of that happening. Hopefully that's helpful. Come back. Leave me a comment on this in April through July when you're like, holy cow, my life is really loud. I'm going to be like, yeah. It's because it's everything is hitting that 29 degrees and it's saying something has to change. People are going to come in that are going to help you with this process. It's okay to lean on other people, basically. You're finally working out some of this karma in relation to relationship karma and not feeling like you have to do all of the work on your own. Okay? Good luck. We've got Elsa, Carol, and Patrick. I also saw, who was it? Did we do Joseph yet? Did we do Joseph? Yes, we did. It's there, don't worry. You're gonna have to scroll back a little bit. It was right after Leticia, excuse me. All right, so we've got Elsa. There we go. Let me pull this up. You got a relationship question. So you're December 2nd, 1970. He's February 1st, 1962. I want to move back from the USA to Italy to stay with him. Is it the right choice? Will he commit? Elsa. I like this for you a lot. Oh my God, how long have you guys gone back and forth? Holy cow. Does this person drive you absolutely insane? What is up with all the fixed square couples? It is not for the faint of heart. Oh my goodness. He's got Saturn, Sun, Venus, Jupiter, South Node in your 7th house. Has this been a back and forth for 2 years? Holy cow. Holy cow. And that squares all your Jupiter and your Venus, and you just do it. How long have you guys been going back and forth? Oh my God. I think that, first of all, obviously, you know, Leo rising, you're going to attract that Aquarius energy. 2 years. Okay. Here's my dilemma. Okay? Just hear me out. Pluto's about to hit your moon. So obviously, first things first, we acknowledge that your home and that dynamic is going to change. Okay? Transformation is key with the moon Pluto. And there is some theme of crisis and dealing with fear. The moon rules your 12th house, foreign places. Here's my issue is that, yeah, having his Mars on your moon is kind of sexy, but his Saturn on your moon makes me feel like, can you guys communicate effectively? Right? Can you? He's been going through it. So all the Saturn transits have been rocky. Now Saturn's moving out of his sign, so it's going to get a little bit easier. As an Aquarius, you know, in general, the Jupiter and North Node stuff in Taurus is really positive for growth within the home and having feminine energy in the home. He's a Libra rising, so I'm excited to see Jupiter and the eclipses in his 7th house, right? And, you know, Pluto is coming into conjunction with his Mars, so it's literally about like a major transformation in regards to the home, and he has to like actually do more around the house in preparation for a partner to come. So it makes sense in his transits that you would do this. But I'm going to tell you something right now, okay? The next couple of years, Pluto's going to enter into your 7th house. So it's less about him, but it is going to conjunct his Saturn, and you need to make sure you can communicate well so you're not setting yourself up to move there and then go through the Pluto on your moon for the next 2 years and have it hit his Saturn and realize that he's not communicating effectively and you're like, I didn't sign up for this. That would be my concern, honestly. But the transits make sense. Jupiter in the North Node through his 7th house. I mean, he's going to have Saturn that's going still through his 5th house of romance, right? Uranus is going to oppose your Jupiter. And you're going to have Jupiter oppose Jupiter. You know, if you move there, that's fine, but you still need to travel. That's the thing that I'll tell you, is that you're going to see next year with Jupiter in opposition to your natal Jupiter with Uranus, you're like, I still want to work, I want to do something, I need to have my own thing, I need to travel. Like, in that case, yeah, it'll work. But like, somebody like this is going to drive you fucking nuts because you have so many planets in your 7th house and it squares your Jupiter, so it becomes inflamed. And you do have Mars and Venus and Jupiter in the 4th house. So you're a very passionate person, right? It has nothing to do with being Italian. You're just very feisty. And so if you're in one place for too long, you're going to get kind of short-tempered. So I think with your natal Saturn in Taurus conjunct Juno, you also weren't going to feel more so settled until you were a little bit older, okay? Maybe, you know, coming into anything after 35. And you have Saturn in opposition to Jupiter. So this represents like, okay, I'm getting older. I might consider, you know, settling down, being committed. It could be to a man who happens to live in a foreign country. You know, sometimes like knowing a little bit of astrology is like a dangerous thing, because if you just know what could happen, like these things show up and we can justify doing it because we're like, well, it's in the chart. I mean, it is in the chart, but like this person's a lot. They're going to get better, but it's a lot. Make sure you guys can communicate. That's my advice. Know that you have different nodes. So also like his North Node being in Leo is he's here to focus on drama and creativity and romance. And also it's opposite to his Sun. So it's good having you around because you'll create that. And then you have your South Node in Leo and your North Node in Aquarius. So you guys learn a lot from each other. And honestly, the fixed signs, all 12 of the signs learn from their polar opposite. But the fixed signs in particular, like Aquariuses are like, oh, I'm not dramatic, but they are, right? Especially if they have some Leo in them. And look at what he has. North Node and Uranus in Leo. Mercury opposed Uranus. So he gets a little kind of wound up. You guys just need space. So commit to, okay, we'll do this. We need to communicate well if I'm going to be there. But it's very evident that you're going to be moving with the Pluto transits. And at some point by that time that we're having that eclipse, there's an eclipse in opposition to your Mars. So it looks like from pretty much April through early fall of this year, you're trying to figure out how to move. So I say do it, but know what you're signing up for, girl. My goodness. And Pluto's going to conjunct his Mars. So he needs to watch the temper. He needs to watch the temper a lot. Was he feisty today? The moon is there. Pay attention. Did you talk to him? I like the moon Mercury though. I feel like you guys can you can work through this. He's just a little grouchy if he's got moon in Capricorn and sun in Aquarius. Very Saturnian. A little grouchy though. And also like he had his fun, man. How old is he? He's born in 62. I mean, he had his fun. He's got that stellium of planets in the 5th house. He was quite the playboy. How many kids does he have? He's got a loaded 5th house. He had his fun, but you know, the thing is he knows how to do the fun and the romancing and the this and the that and the chasing. Oh, no kids? Wow, that's really surprising with a loaded 5th house. Holy cow. Okay, maybe it's the South Node. But when it comes to doing relationships, right, that's the learning curve for this one. It's like learning how to stay in the relationship and stay committed. He might act like a child if he's got all those planets in the 5th house. Does he act like a child? You don't have to answer that. I'm just wondering. But just, yeah, his transits get a lot easier. Just make sure that he's watching the temper. Okay? Good luck. Let us know if you end up planning that move after April, because I have a feeling you might do that. I like your question. I like your reading. Sassy. Okay, so we've got Carol. Carol, I'm sure you sent me your question. I just have to go and find it, so I apologize. And then Patrick. And anybody else. Yeah, he can commit. With Saturn on your descendant, he can commit. Let's see. Okay, Carol, I apologize. I'm trying to find your question. Here we go. Looking for insight for the next few months. Aquarius rising, Sun in Cancer, and your moon is in Aquarius. Next few months. Wowzers. So you've got Pluto. It's coming into conjunction with your ascendant and your moon. It's getting close there, so pay attention to that. Especially health-related things relating to the brain, mental state, emotional state, in the chest, the breasts. Okay, I'm not a doctor, but just watch that, because Pluto transits, there's a major transformation usually with the body, and when it's conjuncting the 6th house lord, it can be the nervous system, the stomach, right, or anything in regards to the chest or the brain. Finally, Uranus is off of your Mars, so things are going to kind of stabilize in the communication or home and family department. So that's going to get a lot easier. Saturn's leaving your ascendant sign. That's going to get a lot easier. Saturn's coming into a conjunction with Chiron. That's about observing and focusing on healing the self, right? And working with water. You've got Chiron conjunct Ceres, so the lessons that you have about separation or kind of breaking things apart and taking space from people, or learning to work through grief and observing endings. Look at what's happened the last 2 days. Sun and Saturn have been conjunct Ceres. So are you cutting back something? Are you like, I'm not eating bread, I'm not having wheat, I'm not having gluten? Is there something that you're cutting out? That's usually what Ceres is about. Or you might be realizing that certain foods have an effect on you, energetically or emotionally, that make you feel sluggish. Transit Saturn's going to go through Pisces. It's going to oppose your Pluto. So there's going to be some boundaries that are going to be going on in regards to you and relationships with other people. Just making it clear with other people what you can and cannot give. Doing taxes. Okay. Uranus is going to start sextiling your sun. So that's going to definitely shake up things in regards to your health and your daily routine. It's a really big energy for both Jupiter and Uranus going into Taurus. I mean, Uranus has been there, but when Jupiter shows up, it's going to sit on your Mars. So that's telling me like there's going to be more kind of busyness, running errands. You know, there might be some sudden unexpected electrical issues with cars. You might have to be, you know, kind of like communicating more with somebody about money and resources, moving money around, filing paperwork, taxes. There's going to be more of this going on in May. That can prompt moves, changes on the home front. You know, I would say work with the element of earth. Start focusing on getting your hands in the dirt, gardening, working with crystals, things that are going to help ground your energy out. Maybe getting a grounding mat, that can be helpful too, right? Transit Pluto is in opposition to your Mercury. That's going to be off and on for the next year. And that's about your personal intensity, your personal power, and how it can be manifesting literally through the digestion, literally through anxiety, anything in regards to your body. Keep meditating, right? You might be also combating fears and phobias, or like there can be like obsessive thoughts that you're working through that you're just trying to observe and kind of let go. Fearful thoughts can definitely come up with that transit. Mercury's technically in your 6th. It looks like it's in the 7th here, but it's in the 6th. So this is also about how you are learning to communicate about some of your stress in a healthier manner. Walking, right? Jogging, writing, anything that's about working with the vocal cords, the throat chakra, singing. That can be really helpful with Jupiter and Uranus on top of your Mars. And it might also be really great working with percussion. I know that sounds weird, but like dance or like beats or anything in regards to like drums and stuff, that can be a great way. Tapping, I wonder if you start getting into tapping. As transit Pluto is coming into Aquarius, it's going to square Neptune. So that means that there's something that's really changing about the way that you look at habits and things that you've done to help you deal with habits, and you might go, oh, I want to learn more about that. So it can be meditation, it can be tapping, it can be some kind of spiritual healing. It might even be you getting into hypnotherapy. Is that an interest of yours? Oh, drum circle, cool. Yep. Yeah. Beats and percussion is really going to help you through these transits, and just like moving around, right? And like shaking stuff out. You need to go dancing with Brandon. And you know, you were born with Sun in opposition to Saturn. So there is this like lesson that there are times that you have to kind of be separate from other people to kind of work through your stuff and heal your stuff. And then you can come back together. So I feel like this is just going to be showing up more throughout some of these transits. And being that the moon rules your 6th house and you've got the Sun and Venus there, do you feel like you have special abilities in being able to kind of connect with animals or heal animals? Is that an interest of yours? Or is it you wanting to be of service and helping women, or like women and children? That could be the other way that I look at this. People, okay. So as Pluto's coming in conjunction with your moon, you might notice that you're just going to be meeting a lot more women that need healing. Okay, but it can be dogs, right, as well, especially in Cancer. But you might be working with like prenatal women, women who are going through cancer treatments, or they're dealing with like heavy stuff. Pluto in the moon is going to bring people who are going to be like working out, detoxifying and clearing things, and they may have some real serious health issues. I like the energy work. I would just say be mindful that it's shifting to something that's more abstract. So I get that, you know, Mars is in the 3rd house, you want to use your hands, but part of what the Pluto and Saturn squares are teaching you is learning more about energy and learning more about sound and learning more about like gridding and things that are more air and like abstract. So you don't have to be as hands-on, but you're a Cancer, you got a lot of earth in your chart. So I get it that it's like touching, but what you're going to learn is that it can be about sending energy, or, you know, gridding, or, you know, like stuff that you're burning, or chants, or, you know, chimes, whatever. Just something very different. It's like a very foreign element for this chart. And your spidey senses are going to be off the chain with Pluto coming in conjunction with your moon. Pendulum, cool. I like that. I think you're going to like Uranus in a sextile to your Sun and your Venus, because it's your chart ruler, and you're going to start learning more about different techniques and modalities, and you're going to start seeing how you can, you know, help family members. And you're going to have people who are going to be like, can you fix my dog? Can you work on my pet? Like, they're going to start asking you this stuff because you have Venus in the 6th house. So you want to work on people, but people are going to say, can I bring my dog? You can do that if you want. Very curious. You got that midheaven at 29 degrees of Scorpio. My goodness. So constantly changing and reinventing yourself, huh? I would say Being that, you know, the North Node has recently activated your Mars, the drum circles and all that stuff is cool, but I think it's also going to be about you learning more about other instruments and how you can kind of integrate that into some of your sessions, right? Learn about Saturn transiting your Chiron. This is about embracing boundaries as a healer. And yes, the 6th house is pets. So usually you're blessed with being able to help or take care of little creatures, Cancers, dogs. So you might see people who are asking you if you'd be willing to do that stuff. Invisible boundaries also, like clearing your energy, right? You're going to learn more about that with Saturn and Pisces. So I think it's about clearing your auric field. Get like a piece of selenite, something you can just kind of like, you know, like all over, just clearing stuff out. I keep bees. I love that. So you're Venus honey, right? That's great. I love that. Usually I would think that would be more like Leo, but that's cool. I like that. Keeping bees. Maybe that's the Sun, Venus in the 6th. Beekeeper. That's your meditation, right? It's in opposition to Saturn. Nobody wants to bother you when the bees are around. That's cool. I'm gonna remember that. I have oppositions between Capricorn and Cancer, and I definitely want to do the bee thing. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Carol. Thank you for being patient. Good luck with your healing stuff. That's exciting. We've got Patrick, aka Patty. You are officially the real MVP. I don't know what time it is over there in Ireland, but thank you for your patience. November 21st, 86. Let's see if we didn't lose him. There we go. He's waiting. 5 a.m. Good morning. Okay, so you are a Pisces rising, Sun in Scorpio, and your moon is in Cancer. Everything's finally changing. Careful what you say. Right when Neptune comes into conjunction with your ascendant. Of course, Pisces risings, you guys have like weird sleep schedules. Here's what's interesting, and this isn't me trying to like ruin the party. I think now that Saturn is moving away from your Mars, that's partly why you're feeling like that. But you got Neptune coming into conjunction with your ascendant. It's still in a square to your midheaven, and you're going to have one more Mars square Neptune. When Mars is out of the square with Neptune, yes, I do think that things are really going to start to move forward. That's been one hell of a Mars retrograde on your Chiron in opposition to Saturn. Has there been delays with moving, delays with communication, issues with scheduling trips, or stuff in regards to just your belief? It feels like things have been kind of just landlocked with all those mutable squares. Yeah. When Mars comes out of the square with Neptune and your midheaven, you're in the clear. So that's going to be right around the 3rd week of March. Okay, because likely you've seen through the Mars retrograde, it's like you think things are going one way and then it changes again and then it changes. It's all that mutable you have in your chart, right? Here comes Jupiter conjunct your North Node. Jupiter's your chart ruler, so it's expanding your horizons in terms of also like your destiny, where you're traveling to, what you believe in, what you're teaching. It's also really great for money. Even though it's not in your Placidus second yet, you're feeling more optimistic about finances. And you're coming into your North Node return, so this is really cool. So it's always interesting to see people right around like 35, 36, 37, just coming into your North Node return. You're also going to have a Jupiter return, right? Or you just had yours. And then you're going to be finding that you're going to start seeing transit Saturn square Saturn. So the question is, where are you going? Saturn's going to still be in your natal 12th house for a couple years. So are you focusing on continuing education? Are you focusing more on being able to travel and focus on philosophy or art or something in regards to esoteric stuff and things behind the scenes? So still a little bit more of Saturn being in your 12th house. It's not going to sit on your ascendant until it conjuncts Neptune. Yep, teaching, healing, travel, yeah. You're doing all that. I think what's cool is that Neptune's in a trine with your sun. And the sun is your 6th house of service and purpose and what you're learning and kind of like helping others. I'm a sun in Scorpio too. When I had that trine, it was like everything opened up and I was like, oh. Something else you'll notice is that there can be a sense of you hearing things, like you'll hear stuff, because Neptune can be about sounds, and so you might start actually hearing messages, like you might become clairaudient or clairvoyant through that transit. Nurse, Reiki, Master Psychic, there you go. And do you have an interest in working with people in like the death and transitioning and crossing over realm? Oh my God, you have so much water in your chart. Scorpio sun, Pisces rising, Cancer moon. I have a feeling that that stuff might come up, right? So it can be people who are going through transitions of knowing they've got terminal illnesses. You may also find that it's about working in healing centers, healing spaces, things like that, foreign places. Like I like the idea of doing travel nursing. I think that that's really wonderful. Yeah, critical care nurse, yeah. Yeah, and one other thing I would just say is like as the South Node is going through Scorpio, it's you know, it's been in conjunction to your Pluto and your Venus, so there's been a lot of like reflecting on change and transformation in relationships. It's bringing all the attention back to yourself. So, you know, now that you're getting ready to come into your nodal return, it's really aligning yourself with your own focus. It's not that you can't have relationships, but it's really about you right now. And I think you'll find after the nodal returns, the beginning of 2024, things start to shift. Pretty dramatically, actually. Because then you're going to see Jupiter come back into an opposition with Mercury. I have this feeling you might meet somebody through traveling. And I don't really think you're looking for it. Venus, Pluto, and Scorpio. I don't think you're really looking for it, but I think that you're going to find somebody that might be in another place unexpectedly. Or it could end up being somebody who you kind of work with, or it can be somebody who's like a client, because you got Mercury in the 7th, whole sign 8th. And as Neptune is coming into conjunction with your ascendant, Saturn's going to hit your Jupiter next year. It's all trining your moon. So there's something that's emerging also about like wanting to fully define like what is my creative purpose, and like do I have my own business, and do I have my own clients, and things are going to change a little bit. So you got about another year of navigating this before you start figuring out like, what do I want, right? Neptune trine to the moon. Where do I want to live? What feels like home, right? Do I want to buy a house? Do I want to fall in love? Do I do the relationship thing, the kid thing? Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But when Neptune's trining your moon, is trining your sun, something's going to come into alignment right when Neptune's in a square to your midheaven. And like, come on, 29 degrees of Sag? Seriously? Like you're going to end up being a teacher, or you're going to end up training, or you're going to end up writing something like that's going to happen because you have all that mutable in your chart. And it's right after your North Node return. Probably the biggest transit would be that. You know, yes, things are opening. But by the same token, you know, the Saturn in the 12th house isn't over, and Saturn's coming out of the square with your sun. That's been a nightmare for people who have planets in the fixed degrees. It's been really, really hard because it's just been one delay after another, right? And so yeah, for you, things are really stabilizing, but it's also really kind of blowing out your intuitive sense of self, like big time. I love all the trines to the moon. I really hope that that materializes as you being like, this is my thing. Like I might do the travel nursing and I might do the healing work or whatever, but like this is my defined intuitive work. Because several years of Neptune and Saturn coming in, trining your sun and trining your moon, I think it can be extremely rewarding, right? That's the only way to navigate Neptune squaring all your shit. It's like, I got to create this thing, you know, like what am I creating? Watch those eclipses there, bud, okay? Because you're going to have an eclipse that's going to be in opposition to your Venus in the fall. And you've got eclipses in your first house. So there are some big things happening with some of the eclipses here. Big time. And that'll be interesting to see a Mercury retrograde also in your 7th. There are some people, whether they're people you work with or they're clients or they're kind of like old partnerships that are going to come in that are going to help you kind of navigate and redirect things back to yourself. Just a heads up. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. It's been a long one. I think that was everyone. Pretty sure. So to those of you guys who were here, got a reading, and you hung out this entire time, thank you guys. I'm not sure what time it is where you're at, but enjoy the rest of your Friday night. I will be back next week. So next Friday, we're going to be doing live tarot. Sunday, we've got a video coming out for astro weather that is going to be all about Venus going through Aries, through the 12 signs. Lots of planets hitting 29 degrees. So we're going to have lots of videos and stuff, content this week. We've got horoscopes coming out. If you guys haven't already, please give me a thumbs up, like the stream. That really helps with the algorithm. I appreciate you guys watching and leaving your comments, for sharing and subscribing. Catch me next time for more readings next weekend, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care.